just waiting for Jim and Joe to give me some good news. It's 8 o'clock. Where are you guys? Waiting for my good news. Get your fat asses online already.
We've even seen a referee 2 feet from the play on the sideline staring at the guy trying to catch the ball, staring at where his feet are, and still calls him out.
Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk from two men in the know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer, absolutely, and showing that he could possibly be the GOAT.
All right, but I gotta say something about the New England Patriots here. The Patriots kept coming out and saying, before the Super Bowl even happened, they kept saying, oh, well, everybody's against us. Bullshit.
Well, they say it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome once again to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
Welcome back, know-it-alls, for another edition of Football on the No Show with me, Joe, and him, Jim. And we're ready to talk some football here,
Yes.
I know, hey, I've had a little bit of withdrawals, I must admit, for, any kind of real NFL news to come out to be able to talk about. But we're doing our best to bring you the most updated content that we possibly can bring and make it entertaining for you. So let's dive right into it, Jim.
Yeah, definitely. There's again, it's a little slow now. We have an all-star break here for the baseball season, and things are kicking up for them. You know what? I don't get with the baseball season. Why do they have to, like, tomorrow is the second half of the season preview. Why do you have a preview for the first half? And then for the second half, there's a preview. What are you previewing?
Well,
You've already seen the teams. Like, what are you previewing in the second half?
Right, but I mean, baseball is the longest out of all the seasons for every other sport there is.
So they're splitting it into two different things now?
Isn't that what it seems like right there? They have 162 games?
Yes.
162 game season, and it's so long that they themselves know that they got to split it up and divvy up into two long seasons. So it's insane.
Yeah.
I've always been one of those type of fans. Like, whenever I watch baseball, I still think it's way too long of a season. 162 games, for what reason? You got to figure out who's the better team, and it takes that long.
Yeah.
Usually it doesn't.
I don't
You
know,
you can cut that right in half. Make it an 80-game season, and I guarantee you're still going to find who the best team is.
Oh, yeah. That's why we don't talk baseball. We do all football. We are Football on the Know. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, FB_Know, on Instagram, Facebook, to get more people to join our group here on Football on the Know.
Get on YouTube.
Also,
that is
Football
it.
On the Know
Get
show
on YouTube.
And yesterday we had the pleasure of talking to our buddy Jeff Levac from 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio.
It's been too long.
It has been a long time. What was funny is Facebook sent me a reminder of how long it's been. Well, we talked to him last year, I think, at one point. But 2 years ago, this very day is when we first talked to him ever for our show. So
ain't that crazy?
It is our 2-year anniversary celebrating with him. So it's very special.
Still going strong.
It's going strong. We're still feel like it's fresh, like it's the first day.
Still love him.
Yeah, definitely. It was cool. So yesterday we got a chance to talk with him, and we'll start that interview in just a second here. But we're also going to have our fact of the day today, and I want to delve into the Texans. We've talked about this a few times here, where you talked about Jadeveon Clowney. Now, is he worth trying to re-sign for a bigger deal? What do you think? And what's going on here? But then also more of the stuff's coming out here, and about why they franchise tagged him. Like, Bill O'Brien was definitely dead set against it, and then the other guys were like, no, we should probably do this. So it's an interesting mix, because they're going through this season now without a GM, with a group of GMs. So I think that's an interesting take on this whole thing, because no other team in the NFL is doing that. So I think it's an interesting thing to point on. Plus, we have a lot of Houston Texans fans that watch our show. So I thought maybe get
that are
their
also in our
opinions
group as well
to join in. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll also get you with some other news with the drop. And we are covering our NFC North's biggest questions too later. So we're going to get to that. But right now, Joe, we are going to cut into that Jeff Levac video interview that we had last night. And you guys enjoy. Check this out.
Here it is.
Joining us on the phone from 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio, it's Jeff Levac. Jeff, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys, not much. Just living the dream of talking sports and getting to talk to you guys about football.
Oh, absolutely. It's been so long since
been a
we
while.
heard from you. Had you on the show. But
I've been in hiding, witness protection. Yeah.
Oh, I know. You're very busy. You cover all the sports, especially the area sports we have here, New York sports. And last time we saw you, I think, was the NFL draft. And
over at Katie O'Byrne. Yep.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was a ball. We stayed for the whole time. It was great. It was fun because we have a Snapchat now. We were getting reactions of all the fans and stuff when the picks were coming in, and we were putting it on Facebook too as well.
That was funny.
And I recall that when the Raiders came up with their first pick and the pick came in, it was Cleveland Farrell. Your reaction was a little off a little bit. I think you were a bit surprised. Now, since he's joined the team, has maybe your opinion changed a little bit about him?
I think once the initial shock wore off, I was okay with it. It's always that pick that completely catches you off guard, that you have to really sit down and think about whether or not it makes sense. Like, the Raiders, the Giants, there was a couple of them this year. But if you asked me before the college football season if he was going to be a top 4 pick, if I was going to be upset about it, I would have said absolutely not. He's got the skills you need. He's a pass rusher. He's a big body. It's a little weird because he has the same agent as Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper. I thought that was odd.
Mm-hmm.
But I like my GMs and my head coaches to think outside the box. If you're just going to pick whoever, McShay and Kuiper say to pick, or, you did hire a draft expert, a.k.a. in Mayock, then just do that. Don't even have a GM. Just take whoever they take. So I like when they go outside the box. I'm excited to see what he does. It did definitely stun me. I was really hoping for Josh Allen and Oliver, any of those numbers, but I'm
Yeah, our draft analyst that we have that joins us in
Drew
the Huddle
Boyleheart.
Report. Drew Boyleheart from InTheHuddleReport.com. He actually had him as his number 1 pass rusher in the draft. So that's why when they picked him, I was like, well, maybe they know something too along the lines of what they were thinking. They've got a hidden talent here that a lot of people weren't expecting. Like you said, there was Josh Allen that was on the board. Ed Oliver was on the board. A lot of excitement was going around that night, especially I think Goss had the bet that if they picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers picked Ed Oliver, he was going to name the kid that or something like that. Was that?
No, worse. He was going to go home and
make a baby. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, because I even went over to him and pat him on the back. I'm like, "You're safe, man. You're safe." Excellent.
Yeah. I told him if the Raiders took Ed Oliver, I was going to take him in the bathroom and make it. So he won twice.
Oh man, yeah. So maybe you guys both won on that one.
out.
Or he did too as well, right? All right, I'm going to try and get away from the Raiders a little bit, but I wanted to hear some of your opinions on some of this stuff too. Now, with everything that's going on with Josh Jacobs and the dispute on the guaranteed money with his contract, how every player that was picked before him has guaranteed money for the 4 years. He doesn't have that in his contract here, so he's kind of holding out on that. Are you confident that he's going to eventually sign, and how confident are you in having him at the helm with the offense?
These things seem to always come together at some point. I mean, remember Joey Bosa with the Chargers had a very similar situation. Running back, I know it's not the same as it was once upon a time where it's like, okay, hit the A gap, hit the B gap. You have to know your passing routes, you know your protection a little bit more. But I think when you've got Jalen Richard and you've got some other good backs in there, they'll be able to help speed along. I would rather he was in there. I mean, Hard Knocks starts filming soon. I need this kid to be a part of it because it'll be fun to see what he really is. But I think it'll all work out. It usually does.
Yeah. All right. So branching off of that. I think we're going to go a lot different route here. I want to talk about the Tennessee Titans, okay? And they have an interesting quarterback kind of scenario or competition, if you will, that is slowly kind of brewing up here. Not only do they have Marcus Mariota, but they recently acquired in free agency Ryan Tannehill. This, for our end, it made it really, it piqued our curiosity a little bit here. So with the signing of Ryan Tannehill, Marcus Mariota, is he on the hot seat now this season? And he has to prove himself this year, or maybe Ryan Tannehill could sneak in there and probably take the job over?
I think there's definitely some warmth to that seat. I don't know if it's a matter of you lose your job performance based on Tannehill, because Tannehill's never really lit the league on fire. but there are similarities. They're both athletic. They can both run. They both have had injury histories. I think you bring in a Ryan Tannehill with Marcus Mariota. You see which one ends up being your best ultimately. But let's say Mariota goes down in week 7. You don't really have to change the playbook. Both these guys can run the option, the read option. Both these guys have similar skill sets. Mm-hmm. And, if Tannehill does continue to pan out, remember, he was a wide receiver in college. His quarterback days aren't that long. Maybe he takes a job ultimately, but I think Mariota still gets every opportunity to hold on to that gig.
Agreed.
Now, focusing on that same type of subject here, you also have a couple of quarterback things going on with 2 other teams as well, with the Washington Redskins potentially and the Miami Dolphins. We're hearing a lot out of Miami that Ryan Fitzpatrick is really excelling right now with them, and Rosen not so much, having a more difficult time with acquiring learning the playbook. What do you feel about those 2 franchises and where they might go?
Isn't that what Fitzpatrick does when he's on a short-term, low-money contract? He's an MVP. Then you sign him to 2-3 years at big money, and he makes you look like a fool. I think I wouldn't be shocked if Fitz ends up being the starter right away. Mm-hmm. But you didn't give up much to get Rosen, so I don't think he has as long of a leash as he probably should. Mm-hmm. But this is a guy that says he's been through so many offensive coordinators, so many different systems, so many different styles. I would think he'll get plenty of time, but I would think Fitz probably does start this year because, again, that's what Fitz does. He'll come in, he'll light a league up, they'll win 6 or 7 games because of his arm, and then they'll try to re-up him for another 2 years, and he'll play like doo-doo. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what about with Washington? Do you think, seeing they brought in Case Keenum, but I don't think they really expected that they were going to be able to get Dwayne Haskins right there. They do now. So what do you think there? You think Case Keenum plays his backup role like normal here, and they throw Haskins in there and potentially just have him show him the ropes a bit, or do you put Case Keenum in and then eventually when he's ready put Haskins in?
Jay Gruden is one of those guys. He's an Arena Football League head coach. I cannot see him not playing with his new toy. I cannot see him not throwing Dwayne Haskins' big arm in that pocket. Case Keenum is a very serviceable backup, but if you heard the show, I love to tease guys because he's got a man crush on him. But he's a good backup quarterback. If he's what you're relying on long term for a season to win, you're in big trouble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, Jeff. Let's take it over to the Kansas City Chiefs here. And Patrick Mahomes, there's everybody's infatuated with the guy. He's got a cannon for an arm. He made a what looked to be a no-look pass, but others might think otherwise. And his production was absolutely through the roof. For his first year in the NFL, just took the league by storm. Do you think he's going to able to replicate that same kind of production, or do you think after defenses have gotten a year's worth of tape on him, now that production is going to decline a little bit there?
I think it declined. He's obviously a gifted athlete, but you think about it, everything went right for him last year. Right. He said no looks, and then he'd have a D tackle bearing down on him, he'd throw it around him, and it would go to people. If you watch Brett Favre, you know that those passes do land in the right hands a lot of times, but there's going to be a time where they all land in the wrong hands. The negative criticism, how is he going to respond to trailing in all these games without Kareem Hunt, potentially without Tyreek Hill? Listen, Kelsey's great, and he makes any quarterback better, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I think the Chiefs might take a step back this year, and I think Patrick Mahomes, he'll still be good. You still take him in fantasy football, but I don't think he's going to be superhuman this year by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Focusing on the Chiefs quick, now the whole business that's going on with Tyreek Hill and how the charges were dropped and all that's going on. We also had the issue with Kareem Hunt before. With the things that are going on with the NFL, with the violence towards women and everything, do you see now potentially they go after Tyreek Hill with suspensions of some sort this year?
I think they have to. There's audio of him, the mother of his child saying he's terrified of you, and he said, you need to be terrified of me. That audio exists. It's him. We know it's him. Yeah, there's not enough to put you in jail or anything like that, but the league doesn't wait for that. He's going to, he's, in my opinion, he's got to get 6 games. He's part of the domestic violence.
Mm-hmm. At least. Because again, repeat offenders. And the things we've seen here, Ray Rice was out of the league. Kareem Hunt somehow he gets a second chance, here with the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
And now Tyreek Hill, I think it's the NFL really needs to step up and make a statement again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I get really jazzed up about this topic, and we've had several discussions on our show about the same thing. And when you refer to Ray Rice, it got caught on video. It was just right out there. Everybody saw it, so he got kicked out. He got reinstated, but no team wanted to touch him. Same thing with Kareem Hunt. On video, he was kicking a woman while she was down, and he gets reinstated, but then gets cut from the Chiefs, and then gets signed right away pretty much by the Cleveland Browns, and there's no backlash. I have a problem with that. Yeah, he got an 8-game suspension, but geez, it was just as bad as what Ray Rice did, and he's still going to play. And then you have that thing with Tyreek Hill. Now you go by history. Back in college football, when what was then his fiancée, he choked her and punched her in her pregnant stomach. You know what I mean? In college football, got kicked off of a college team because of it.
I think. See, here's where it's the Ray Rice thing is like the pinnacle of evil for me because you just see he's so calm when he does it. Like that's not a moment of passion. That's just straight. This is how I react. This is what I do. Kareem Hunt, as bad as Kareem Hunt is, and I almost, and this is such a weird stand, so bear with me and let me flesh it out. If you're in the league and you bring him into the league when you already knew about the college issue, I almost feel like they just can personally do because you've already said, hey, we forgive you for this. So now we're on this new thing where this video shows up where he's I'd hazard a guess, had a few alcohol beverages, he's losing his mind, and he kicks this woman. Your rules that you stated, it's a minimum of 6 games for a first offense for domestic violence, which technically this is just violence because it's not domestic, but you violence against a woman, and you gave him the 8 games, you give him a chance to prove he belongs, but this is it. Like this is like in the league, you get this strike, this is it. You're done after this one, and the fact that the Browns still want to use him and everything like that helps him. I guess one of the weird things for me is we got a 23-year-old man here who is not a kid anymore, and I worry if he's not in the league, how much worse is because that's like Maurice Clarett is always the one I look at. Like Maurice Clarett was a guy who had all the talent in the world, decides to challenge the league, try to get in the league early, ends up screwing himself over, and then years later he's getting arrested in an SUV full of guns and stuff. I want to see Kareem Hunt redeemed. Like I want to see every person get better at life. I want you to get a chance to be better. And it's just Kareem Hunt, like you just pointed out, like his past is so awful. If he does this again, the Browns, you gave him a chance. It's on you too now. Like it's on the league. It's on you too now. So you can't turn a blind eye and go, oh well, we were just trying to help a guy. You help the guy if he redeems, if he proves that that's not who he is anymore. I guess I put it away, but you're right. I mean, it's a real thin path that the league is walking with some of these guys, like Kareem Hunt in particular.
Right. Yeah. I got a question here about the New York Giants. After the departure, they traded away Odell Beckham. A lot of Giants fans were up in arms about it. They shouldn't have done that. They're going to ruin our organization, all this other stuff. Now you come to this you look at this Giants wide receiving core. What do you think the status of it is? Because after they added Golden Tate to kind of put a Band-Aid over that little hole there at wide receiver 1, you still have Sterling Shepard coming back healthy. You have Evan Ingram at tight end. And not to mention Saquon Barkley. Oh, my God. Guy's a monster. Yeah, right. So what do you think this offense is going to kind of look like now without Odell and with Golden Tate?
I actually think it's going to be a better all-around offense. Like, you don't lose a guy like OBJ and do good because of it, but I don't think you were using it right. Like, and we just had Greg Gattuso, the Albany head coach, who was on the show last Friday, and he said to me, you do not ever give up a wide receiver of that caliber. Wide receiver, these corners, quarterbacks, those are the guys that are going to win games for you with big plays. You don't ever give up a guy like OBJ. But my theory is a little different. Last year, that offensive line was so god-awful. You can't throw the ball to him anyway. You don't have time for him to do a move and get open. You don't have time for him to get downfield to get open. You're Saquon Barkley's the whole bleeping show. I get Golden Tate, who is still got some tread on those tires. Shepard, they rewarded with a contract. Evan Ingram, everybody's, over the moon on him. I still want to see him do it at a consistent level. But I think the most important thing is they rebuilt that line. That offensive line, it looks, oh my God, it's being night and day compared to what it was last year.
Absolutely.
And just gives it, and I guess like if you see some of the footage from practice, when Daniel Jones is out there, they're running that run pass option. So like I think you're gonna see a team that's gonna be more of a Shurmur team, where he's going to throw short, concise passes, run the ball. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna control the offense a little bit more, play smart plays, and let it break out. So I think the offense will actually be better without OBJ. But not because OBJ isn't great, just because he doesn't fit there where they are growth-wise.
All right, we're talking to Jeff Levac from 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. I have an opinion or a question here about your opinion on the Cowboys now. They are in a money situation here. They just signed DeMarcus Lawrence to another deal. They need to sign Amari Cooper. He wants to get paid like an elite wide receiver. And you've got Dak Prescott you also need to handle. And he's looking to ask about $34 million now. The million-dollar question here is, do you think he's worth it? And what are the Cowboys going to do to try and satisfy these guys? Because they also have Zeke on the burner.
Right, I was going to say, don't forget Zeke, because you've got to do Zeke's extra year, and then you got to figure out what you're doing. And he's not going to be happy when they do that. I don't see how you can keep everybody and pay Prescott the money he's looking for. I feel like Denver was onto something. Like John Elway was onto something with Brock Osweiler, where he's like, look, I want you. I want to pay you. You're not an elite quarterback. I don't want to pay you like an elite quarterback. I want to pay you like a very good quarterback. And I feel like Dak Prescott's in the perfect place for Dak Prescott. They understand his weaknesses. They understand his strengths. They gave him a running back and an offensive line to protect him. He's excelled. I feel like he needs them just as much as they need him. And he's silly to ask for all that money, even though the market dictates you get it.
Right.
Take 20, take 19, working bonuses, whatever. Make Jerry give you a TV show or something, whatever it is. do that to keep this team together. And Amari Cooper, he's been great for them, but he did that 1 year. Like he's had good years, but not elite years. Mm-hmm. So I don't. These are two guys that probably are going to break the bank. But if they want to win, one of them, at least one of them, maybe both of them, have to look at each other and go, "I'll take $3-4 million less a year if you take $3-4 million, and let's stay together and let's potentially win an NFC East that if Carson, we're the clear favorites to take."
Yeah, and that's the craziest thing about that whole situation, too, is it's not just the guys that Jim just mentioned and you as well, Levac. It's also the future guys of this organization. Their contracts are coming like a Jalen Smith. They're pro. I mean, watch out. I think they're they're heading for financial purgatory at this moment, and it's going to be really tough to come out of it unscathed. But moving on.
It's almost win now. Yeah, it's almost win now.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I'm looking at it. I'm like, are you going to pay him, or maybe just say, you know what, take a walk and we'll figure it out? Because you know what, maybe you can get Trevor Lawrence coming up. Who knows? Right. I don't know. There's other guys too that you maybe look for in the future because you got a lot of youth there too as well.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. The whole Trevor Lawrence
I don't think
thing,
he's worth it. So I mean, a lot of people are going to say, well, you have to because he's the quarterback and that's what you need. I say, you gotta give him something.
Yeah, I feel the same way you do. I think you pay your. I mean, especially that position. It's a prime position, but you got to pay it accordingly. Mm-hmm. Just like Levac was mentioning.
Yeah, look how it's destroyed other teams.
Yeah, about
how's Detroit doing?
Yeah.
Well,
exactly. How's that?
Stafford's good. You're looking to get rid of him. How crazy is that?
Yeah, exactly. And how has that roster been? I mean, they still have yet to build that whole entire roster. Mm-hmm. But talking about rosters here. Hey, Levac, fantasy football is right around the corner, buddy. And I want to get your feedback a little bit on it as if you had to pick, let's say, a couple, maybe 3 fantasy studs that you absolutely want or tell every one of our know-it-alls out there that are looking for some help, give them 2 or 3 guys that you think are going to be studs for the upcoming 2019 season.
Obviously, if you're a running back at MetLife this year, I'm a fan. But I almost feel like that's almost not fair. But Le'Veon Bell, I guess, I see him sliding down the rankings, like 5th, 6th, 7th running back. In my math, there's only 1 or 2 running backs that are better than him. That would be like Barkley, and I'm not afraid of Todd Gurley this year with the injury. So I think Le'Veon Bell sliding is ridiculous. He's somebody I'm definitely all about. Man, it's been one of those like where I'm sitting here looking at everything. Still, I'm just getting started on like fantasy rankings.
Yeah.
So like I don't want to cop out and just give you a lame one, but like watch that Raiders team, man. That offense is built for speed, and I don't know if they're going to win a lot of games, but I can see them losing a lot of games that are both going to be in the 30s and 40s points wise. But man, I'm trying to think of a reach for you. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to think of somebody
like a dark horse, a sleeper, or something like that.
Yeah, I want like I don't want to just give you like all the chalk and just be like every other win. What about Josh Allen? I'll give you Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Bills. I don't think it's a fluke that he can run and throw.
Yep.
And I think they went out and they got him a lot of weapons. Look for Josh Allen to do that, and then maybe Mark Ingram with the Ravens to be a workhorse back, a bell cow back, and really bring it home.
Yeah, that makes sense right there. And then also to run off of what you were talking about, Josh Allen. Here's the thing: is Josh Allen? It's the first time he's going to actually have weapons all around him. You know what I mean? He's got Cole Beasley there. He's got him and Zay Jones. I mean, I made fun of Zay Jones a couple years ago, big time, and said this guy gets drafted high. He's not producing. What's going on with that? With the whole thing? Yeah, there was problems with the quarterback situation, but Zay Jones is kind of coming into his own now with Josh Allen and establishing a great rapport going forward. I'd watch out for these guys to link up a lot this year.
And the one thing with Zay Jones that I think is interesting is, like, of course, we're all going to make fun of that hotel situation.
Yeah.
But we met him at camp his rookie year, and he like they're cool. Every member of the Bills is cool. Like they'll talk to the fans or whatever.
Right.
He was like waiting around to talk to people. Like he was going out of his way to let Bills fan know that he was serious about being here.
Okay.
And that kind of stuff doesn't get lost on me. So I think he's somebody who really wants to make it work. And yeah, I think if they're with weapons now, where you're not just like, well, okay, he's all they got, let's go get him. I think he could have a very interesting season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to go touch on the Jets a little bit since you brought up Le'Veon Bell and things like that. And I think maybe some people are a little bit concerned because they do see the Jets here and they're not sure maybe what to expect. And also the first half of their season is kind of tough for them. They face a lot of tougher teams with some better defenses. They have the Bills, like you just brought up, the Bills number one in the their first game. Now, how do you think the Jets are going to do? Because fans are instantly they're going to take the division from the Patriots somehow. And so I want people to come down to earth. And what's your opinion now here on the Jets?
All right, I'm not that far off. I'm not ready for them to take down the Patriots yet. But I think they're a wild card team, man. I think they're a 10-win team. I love Adam Gase. Like last year, I got so much grief in my preseason picks. I took Miami to be a wild card team, and I did it because of Gase. And if you look at the way Miami started before all the craziness, Tannehill getting hurt, dishing off players because they don't do what they want and whatever. And I think Gase kind of knew he was out at that point. They were a solid team that played good defense. I mean, they even lost. I can't even think of the kid's name now. They lost one of their potential Pro Bowl defensive linemen in the game against the Raiders because he tried not to hurt Carr and he hurt himself. That Gase is good. Greg Williams is very good. That defense is solid. You got a best friend for Sam Darnold, and we talked to Kelvin Beachum, the left tackle, and I love Beach. He's the most positive guy on the planet. He'll tell you they're gonna win every fight, but there's a swagger to it. There's a contentness in his voice. I think they could win 9-10 games, be in the wild card hunt.
Excellent. All right, we're talking to Jeff Levesque from 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. The NFL.
By the way, you're home for Jets football.
Yeah,
so
home
keep
for.
that in mind.
There you go. And you can also listen to him on the app. How about that? You've got the 104.5 The Team app. If you're not from upstate New York here, download the app. You can listen to them. They are 2 to 7 p.m. weekdays. There you go on Levesque and Gaz. There you go. I got it. There's a free plug for you. Okay. All right. I know. The NFL now, for their 100th anniversary in 2020, they're thinking about inducting 20 recipients for the Hall of Fame. What's your opinion on that? Now, do you think it's maybe to put in some of the backlog guys that probably should be there that just haven't got voted in yet, or do you think it's too many, or what do you think? What's your opinion on this?
Again, if what you're saying is right, and the guys who should be in who just haven't been able to get in, I'm going to be cool with. Because there's like anytime you bring up a name, somebody brings up another name. You know what I mean? There's always, well, he's done it, but he's done it. Whatever.
Exactly.
If they're the right 20, if they've legitimately sat down, that these are 20 guys that need to be in, and we're going to put them in, I'm all about it because it's cool and it's, you know, whatever, however they want to do it. But if it's just because it's a cool gimmick for 2020, then I'm against it. Like, if all of a sudden, like if I get a call because I've watched a bunch of games and I'm in the Hall of Fame, it's a bad idea. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have the breakdown here. I'm putting up a graphic right now. There's they're getting 5 normal modern era players out of 15 finalists they're going to put in. It's 10 senior players, 3 contributors, and 2 coaches. That's what the 20 will consist of. So that's where I'm looking at it. It kind of seems to me like what we're talking about is some of the guys that have been up for it for a while. Now they're senior players, finally get a chance to get recognized in there because, you know, a lot of them are faced against, you know, tougher competition too as well. Like you said,
right.
You know, like Joe and I have tried to pick who's going to go in each season, and it's like a toss-up sometimes. And you're like, oh, he went in still, but it could have been this guy.
Yeah,
you know, and
you can make your argument. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, whoever hasn't ticked off the media the most gets in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
what we brought up last
part.
week. We had the conversation. We brought this up on our show and everything on the segment, and that's what we brought up too as well.
Yeah, it's sad. It's just sad.
Yeah, like, you know, do they come up with a committee now to try and fix that issue or what? Or will it always be the media? But you know what? Also, we brought up with that whole thing is the fact that media is getting younger. If you look at the way people are starting blogs and things like that, and people that get votes, a lot of them don't know the older players. When you talk about older players and they see them on the ballot and they've been there for a while, well, I don't know him, but, you know, I know Peyton Manning, you know, he's going to be up here or whatever, this and this. That could be possibly an issue too.
I mean, that's a good point. I just feel like if you're going to vote for the Hall of Fame, you should have to pass like an aptitude test where you know that football existed before, you know, the rules were changed on wide receivers and secondary because the Patriots were beating up on the Colts. Like, you should be able to go back to like Super Bowl 2, 3, 4, 5 and actually know what happened.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to wrap you up with one last thing here. We're going to have some fun here for the last part. I am going to, you know, the game. I think you're pretty familiar with the game. Marry, Kill, Sex, and Friend, right? All right.
Okay,
but you're going to get a bigger pool here. You got all 32 teams, all right? You have to pick one you're going to marry, kill, sex, and friend. Now, sex is the sexiest pick. You know, sexiest team out there you think is right. Friend is, well, they're probably going to edge in. You see maybe make it the playoffs this year that didn't last year. Kill, they're just going to be absolutely putrid this year. And marry, that you're just in love with. What do you got? Marry, kill, sex, and friend, Levac.
All right, so sexiest pick for me. I mean, I love a man with a beard. Give me Luck and the Colts. I think that team is going to be a monster this year. So that's big.
Good one. Good
I mean, how do I marry anybody not named the Raiders?
I know, right? It's like I was trying to get you off of the Raiders, maybe. Like, what do you got?
Good luck.
Good luck.
You know, I could probably marry the Bears. I think the Bears are going to be a solid team too. Like, if you told me it was going to end up being Colts Bears, I would be right there with it. Friend, somebody who could sneak in, looking around the league, looking around who do I want to be friends with. You know what? I said that the Jets could be a wild card team. They'll be my friend. I'll stay with them.
There you go.
You know, I think I don't think they're going to get a ton of love from a lot of people, but they could very well sneak in. If I'm killing somebody, it's probably Miami. I think Miami's going to be god awful. I think Miami's going to be god awful.
There you go. So he's killing Miami?
He's killing Miami.
Yeah, I think they knew. I think like when you made the moves you made, hopefully when you brought it forward, you said we're going to stink for a year or 3 to get everything right. We're going to let him build it. We're going to give him time to build it up. Because they're just god awful. They give up everything.
Yeah, now give Rosen time. You sit with Fitzpatrick, maybe get Rosen in, and you know, rock and roll next year. Who knows?
Yeah, now you know they're still in rebuild mode, so
yeah.
It's definitely a possibility.
So there you go. That's Marry, Kill, Sex.
And if Rosen doesn't take that job, watch them go Tua. Watch if they don't feel like Rosen's going to be the guy. Watch them go Tua.
Yeah, there you go. All right, with Jeff Levac from 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. You can catch him weekdays 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. on 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. Also the app. Download the app. And Jeff, we thank you so much for joining us. It's always a great time. We love having you on. Whenever you're not busy or you find time in your schedule, we'd love to have you back on.
I appreciate that, guys. Thanks for having me on. It was a great time.
No problem. Excellent, man. Take care.
As always, brother. Have a good one.
All right.
All right, man. I'll talk to you guys.
All right, later.
Bye.
All right, there you go. That's our interview with Jeff Levac. It's always a good time when he comes out and talks to us.
Once a year.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to shorten that up a little bit because we do have a blast talking with Levac all the time. Very funny dude, loves to talk football, and we enjoy having him on the show.
Yeah, definitely. It's always a good time. And so like I said earlier, we have a lot to talk about. He touched on a lot of things with him. What's great is we were able to a lot of times we talk Raiders and stuff like that because
he's a Raiders fan, right?
But we were able to touch on the Jets.
But I like that.
The Cowboys,
mixed it up.
And things like that.
Definitely.
And what's funny is because I brought up the Josh Jacobs idea too, and what's going to go on with the holdout possibly, because Daniel Tomlinson had talked about it too, like, oh yeah, he should hold out, step up for us, running backs and stuff like that, and I was interested to see like, well, what would happen? How do you think this offense would sputter if he wasn't to make it there, or if he was going to join camp late? Like, because last time I think one person that held out, I think it was Roquan Smith, due to a contract thing, he didn't come back
Bosa.
until like August. So I'm like, how would that affect the offense the way it goes? And wouldn't you know it, Josh Jacobs sounds like at midnight last night. So, but that's what happens when you record stuff early and stuff. So.
And that's and that's the thing too is Josh Jacobs. Like, listen, when they get drafted from the draft, maybe not a lot of people know this. Maybe the majority should know this already, but their contracts are pretty much already set in stone. They're already pre-done. They're all depending on where they get picked. There's already a certain number that they're gonna sign for. I know that there's been a couple of times where guys like Joey Bosa that have tried to test that whole formula and tried to make it to fit their own needs, either in numbers or language in the contract. But it's pretty much set in stone. You don't get anything different than the last guy from last season. It's all set. So when they get drafted at the 15th pick, the second pick, whatever, all that contract's just ready to go. It's really, really not very much different than the previous season. So they come in there. Agents know what to expect too. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's new to them. Year after year, they go through the same thing, and they know what to expect too. So, all in all, no matter rookie pretends to try to hold out, if you will, or something like that, in the end, they will be signed. I know it is concerning for some fans when that does happen. You're like, oh man, dude, this is our draft pick. He's our first-round draft pick. What are we doing? Just relax. It'll get done. It's okay. And sure enough, at midnight last night, Josh Jacobs got signed, their last first rounder that they had. They're actually their last draft pick.
Yeah, and I think the lens was focused a little bit on them too, just because it's Mike Mayock and his first time being a GM too.
It's
so they're
that,
like, does he know what he's doing?
Right.
Because it's about guaranteed money and stuff.
But Mayock isn't the one doing the contracts. It's Joey Klingsdale handles all the contracts, all the negotiations and all that. Mayock is a talent evaluator. That's the whole reason why he was brought in, and there's also, you have the magnifying glass on them as well, just because they are going to be on Hard Knocks for training camp. So there's a lot of curiosity, and intrigue for that team going into August.
There you go. So there's Jeff Levac. We hope to have him on real soon. It's always a blast to talk to those guys.
Shout out to Mike Tackett. Mike Tackett's in the house.
Definitely, that's right. He is our last week's show's MVP, so he gets another ballot in on our big competition we're going to have at the end of this particular football season.
Yeah.
So after the Super Bowl this year in 2020, we are going to do a giveaway. So
we are.
Whoever ends up being the show MVP each week gets their name in the drawing.
Yeah, it gets tallied up at the end of the season, right after Super Bowl, like Jim said, and whoever comes on top, whoever's been the MVP the most, gets the gift.
There you go.
It's that simple.
Yeah, let's head to our next segment here. It's the fact of the day, Joe. It's the know-it-all.
I love this.
In the know, fact of the day. All right, ready for the fact of the day?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. This is interesting. I found this today. The longest field goal in NFL history was kicked by Tom Dempsey in 1970. He was a 22-year-old New Orleans Saints kicker. Tom had been born without half of his right foot. and he also was born without 4 fingers on his right hand.
Yeah.
So imagine that, a kicker with only half of his right foot,
Right.
and be able to kick the longest field goal in NFL history. Later to tie, with Jason Elam, I think, and a few others ended up tying it. But look, how about that? That's pretty amazing, huh, Joe?
Yeah, Tom Dempsey. I mean, and sure enough, is his foot to be half of a foot, it actually ended up helping him. It was almost like swinging a bat and hitting the football. So it just went flying.
Maybe. Oh, man. All right, so like we said earlier, we teased it before we rolled up the interview. We're going to talk a little Texans here because that's the buzz that's even going on right now. Within the last few hours, last 4 hours or so, Adam Schefter is lighting up Twitter, and also our buddies at the NFLTradeRumors.com. They're sharing stuff here. And the thing is, it's we had talked about the deal with extending
Jadeveon
Clowney's contract was a good idea. They did place him on the franchise tag, but now within all this conversation, what they're talking about now with the GM search, they did look to, after they fired Brian Gain, we find out now that it was due to possibly little friction between him and Coach Bill O'Brien. I know they disagreed. O'Brien wanted to just tag Clowney and then let him ride it out and see what happens. Gain wanted to sign that extension, just kind of give it to him.
Right.
So they had disagreements there. They get rid of him, and then they're getting investigated by the NFL for tampering because the Patriots throw it out there, and they want Nick Caserio, and all of a sudden they squash that whole thing. I think because they didn't want to get in any kind of trouble with that. So now it comes down to a fact that they want to share the reins here, or the help of the GM kind of position amongst a group of 4 of their front office members here.
Right. And that's not uncommon either, because when you're without a GM, you need to divvy up the responsibilities in the front office because you don't have that position, that guy that you can fully trust to help run the organization, and it's help making some of its tougher decisions going forward. So, yeah, they divvy up the responsibilities, and each person is going to have a certain responsibility that a GM would ultimately have, and it's not uncommon for that to happen. I mean, what else are you supposed to do? If you don't have your general manager of your store, and where does all the responsibilities fall on? Well, assistant managers that they have underneath them. It's the same kind of setup. So, in the end, Texans are going to be fine this year. It's only for 1 year. It's so close to the season's right here. Like I know it's like, some people are looking at it like, yeah, man, but September, but believe me, it'll come faster than you think. And it's the same way for football teams, especially when you're looking at a position like GM. GM, you need to take some time to find a candidate that might fit your organization, or find a person that the personality that you like, or the way they're wired in football, their IQ and that sort of thing. So because it takes time, because a lot of the candidates now are already entrenched in other organizations and front offices, it'll be hard to get them now because the season is right there. So they're going to have to go throughout this season, which is not a big deal because the offseason has already occurred. We've already had free agency. They've already done the draft. Now it's pretty much ride it out through the regular season. Things are going to come up, whether they have to put a guy in IR, that kind of a decision might have to be made, or do they add another free agent because this guy's out for a certain amount of time. So those decisions will still have to be made. But ultimately, it's the hard part of the job is pretty much over. You know what I mean? They've been through the offseason, so now it's just regular season. They got to kind of ride out.
Yeah, and if you think about this too, I'm sure when it comes up at the end of the season, where it's going to be around draft time too, whether they're going to look and gather up together as maybe a whole and trying to find another GM, or if they just
definitely
trying to work at it here, and because you have all the execs in the same room. They have the war room when they go to draft members and things like that, and players, so they're all in the same kind of conversations and talking about this all together anyways. So they all have like minds here in their own opinions, and they've done this kind of thing before already,
right?
Just without that main soul head guy being the one to initiate the actual thing.
Yeah, so after the season runs its course, in the early stages, right after the Super Bowl. That's when they're going to start looking at other teams or other personnel from other organizations to maybe bring in some guys. I mean, everybody's finding that next great up-and-coming guy, whether it be a head coach or a GM or a front office guy in the scouting department or something like that. So they're going to do their due diligence. They're going to go ahead and they're going to find the right guy that fits that GM position for the next season. Now, here's the interesting part about all this, too, is when they do find that new GM, he does have to kind of develop a good relationship with the head coach or already have a good relationship. My thing is, are they going to look for a GM that is going to fit well? And if they don't, if they're just going to find just a new GM that they like, that could mean it's all done for the head coach there in Houston, and they might just go completely and wipe the slate clean and look for a new coaching staff and have a new front office.
That's what I think is the interesting concept of this whole thing. Because how many times have we even said about Bill O'Brien? Is he on the hot seat? And maybe he does it and he gets away because what did he have before as a quarterback? He had Savage and things like that. Kept mixing them up here and there. And so, who are you going to blame? The GM. Well, they're the ones that drafted the guys. That's who he gave me to work with.
Right.
All right, so those excuses are out.
Yeah, those are all
right.
done.
So this guy has been getting saved a lot of times here. So this was the year that he kind of, I thought, had to really show what he could do with the team fully. You have Deshaun Watson again. Hopefully he can stay healthy again, see what this team can do. And now you've got another GM situation. So like you said, they bring in another GM. Depending, I think, on how the season it is, like you also said, do they get a guy that can work with Bill O'Brien and that they're on like mind here, or do they get a guy that's ready just to bring in a whole new guy and Bill O'Brien's out the door?
That's going to be interesting
on how
to
this
see.
team finishes.
Yeah, and you're absolutely, you hit the nail on the head right there. It's all going to be determined. And listen, just like Jim mentioned before, he's been given a long leash, in my opinion, to sustain that head coaching position. Now, his name has been floated out there a couple of times now. Is he on the hot seat this year? Is it this year? Is it last year? Now it's like, if you don't do well record-wise this year, I think the doors are just going to be slammed shut in his face and see you later. We're going to find someone else that can make a difference. I mean, this is a very talented roster. So, I mean, you have one of the best receivers in the league on this team. You have a great number 2 in Will Fuller. It's just a matter of if he can stay healthy, So, and you look at this. I mean, they really do still need help at offensive line, but they finally got their quarterback and Deshaun Watson. They have some nice, unique pieces in the backfield besides Lamar Miller. I really can't wait for Deontay Foreman. I'm really excited about him. If he can stay healthy this year, watch out for him this season. And the defense is already really good, and they're great in their own right for pass rushing and stuffing the run.
Right.
They just got to work on that pass defense. Yep. So this team is very talented, and he's had a couple of years with Deshaun Watson. He's had a couple of years with this talented roster. How come you're not pushing into the playoffs?
Especially last year with the playoffs. Like, you thought maybe they had a chance here. And what did they do? They kind of laid an egg in the playoffs there. So we'll see what happens here with that team. Mike Tackett joins us here and throws out a question here with
MVP.
Yeah. So with Dak Prescott coming to the point in his career where he needs to step up and be the one who carries the team rather than his teammates carrying him, he's definitely at a crossroad in his career. What do you guys think the trade value of Dak Prescott would be if he has another year like the past season?
Ooh, that's a good one. Now, Dak Prescott is still young, obviously. It's interesting because Dak Prescott has to fit in a certain offensive mold.
If they wanted to trade him, though, wouldn't they have to trade him this season? Because he's on his 4th year, and he doesn't get the trade fifth-year option because he wasn't a first-round pick.
Right.
So they would have to do it before week 8.
It would have to be right. It'd have to be before week 8, and he's asking what the trade value is. Now that's interesting because here's the thing: listen. It's a premier position, okay? So it's not like you're going to get him for a 3rd-round pick or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think lower tier 1st round, high tier 2nd round, or a combination of some picks. Maybe a player or something like that. And that's if you're going the draft pick route. You know, in a team that needs a quarterback, there's always teams out there, and they're always looking for maybe striking a deal to get a player. But here's the thing: is Dak Prescott? He's got to fit into that. He's got to fit in a very specific mold. He's great at coming off of play action. He obviously has mobility, so he can run with the football if needed. He has a strong arm, but his accuracy and his decision making kind of are like, I don't know about this guy. So it's tough. He's definitely not in the upper echelon of quarterbacks in this league. He's kind of like mid-tier, I guess you would consider him. And for me, I just don't see a high trade value. For me, if you want to fill a quarterback position, if you want to try to work with his skill set, and maybe that's the kind of offense that you got to go with, listen, Dallas Cowboys did a phenomenal job. You know, when they drafted Dak Prescott, they drafted him in hopes. Now, they didn't know, but they drafted him in hopes that he could hopefully, develop into that starting quarterback. He has developed into that quarterback, but with a lot of help. He needs a lot of help around him. Bottom line, you can't just put him say even if Miami Dolphins pulled off a trade right now for Dak Prescott, what does the Dolphins have around him? They don't have an elite running back. They don't have an elite offensive line. They don't have really any major weapons on the outside. They got decent weapons, but they're not, any big time names or anything like that. Cowboys, they don't have elite guys either. I mean, you put Amari Cooper out there, who I think is the best receiver they have at the moment. Watch out for Michael Gallup this year, by the way. I think he's going to make another. He's going to have a breakout season as a wide receiver. But he's got one of the best offensive lines to help protect him, to open up holes for Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, there's not, and they've catered to his ability. They run a lot. And in turn, they're able to do the play action off of those runs, and that's where he gets his credibility there because that offense fits him to a T. So the market for him, I think, will be I don't think extremely low, but I think it'll be low.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, too, like what do you even get for that? Because their backups aren't worth anything here. So do you try and trade player for player and then even, then a lower pick? Like I said, it doesn't kind of even make sense to even figure a trade, especially when Jerry Jones says he loves him and he's going to try and give him his money. He's going to do whatever he can to keep him and stuff. So I've heard the conversations before, especially even with Cowboys fans too, because they had the issue with the offensive coordinator last year said, well, he's not giving them the proper plays for him to have success. And see what happens with the Cowboys when they give him what he was comfortable in and stuff like that. Okay, I can understand that. So you're saying he's a system quarterback then or certain thing.
Right.
We understand that.
Exactly.
Okay. Sounds like he would work well. You know what they used to do, what they were doing in Tennessee, maybe that to with Mariota.
Right.
Maybe do a flip flop there or something and grab a swap and a pick or something. Because they've only got Tannehill keeping the seat warm there too.
They just signed Ryan Tannehill. How crazy would that be?
I know
they just signed Ryan Tannehill and then they ship Ryan Tannehill to Dallas, and in turn they get Dak.
Yeah, I mean, because again, for me, we've talked about this too. I don't think he's worth what he's looking for, and I think it's time for teams to dictate this here. Stop letting the players. Yes, the players want to be like, oh, we want guaranteed money. We see basketball players making this. We see that, and they want to ask him, let their agents take over and say, well, he handles the money, and this is what he's speaking for me. So whatever he says is
right.
Well, it's from me.
Yeah.
And that's not always the best for the team. That's again, we have to bring it up over and over again. But teams that work with players that work with the teams and contracts have been the most successful ones. Tom Brady, again, to this day. Not if he's supposed to be the best quarterback of all time, and he definitely doesn't get paid like it and doesn't ask to get paid for it like that. You know what I'm saying? He just takes care of his body, shows up early, leaves late, does what he needs to do to win and compete and be there and stay healthy. And
he makes $15 million per year. And he does that on purpose because he wants the organization to use whatever extra money that they're able to have to go ahead and get in free agency, grab a couple more players to retool the roster. And it's been working out perfectly, as you can see. Look, the roster that it almost seems like every single season there's a little bit of a tweak in the roster somewhere at some position. And even though it might not be a big name, even though it might not be a guy with a lot of production, whether he's in the league or just comes in from the draft, they make those, they find the guys that fit their scheme perfectly, and that's what carries on success.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it. They're one of the few organizations in this league that do it amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if he says now, if he has another season like last year, you got to think too. Now Kellen Moore comes in here, and he's got to give Dak Prescott a chance to be successful in this offense. And what's he gonna do here? This is the way the Cowboys run too. The problem is with the front line here, with the guys that are in charge, the coaches. They're all rehashed former players, too, that were former Dallas Cowboys here. That's the one thing I think that has been
holding back
Dallas. Because when he did have the stronger-minded coaches or the elites, like the Jimmy Johnsons, Bill Parcells, they were having success. They were. But then he wasn't getting along because they wanted more control over things.
Jerry Jones.
Like that.
It's that simple.
Where have you been since then? Yes, Jason Garrett has brought the team. This how he gets credit, has brought the team to the playoffs or won the division. Last 3 seasons or so. It's like, okay, I'm like, out of what? What has the NFC East been?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The Redskins have been riddled with injuries, searching for a quarterback. They get Alex Smith. He goes down, again. The Eagles were riding on 2 quarterbacks. Luckily, Nick Foles was able to produce and bring them to the Super Bowl, so they won it. So what are you bragging about there? Because the Philadelphia Eagles are in your division. And the Giants have been just a mess with what they were trying to pick and with multiple coaches and offensive coordinators too, and rehash this and that. So what are you boasting about here? You got to really just look at your team. What is best overall for your team? Is it really investing in this guy? Or, again, I'd say ride out this season, let the contract run out or whatever, and go ahead, test free agency. And we'll give you this offer. And if you like it, you like it. You don't. Because you know what? There's other options that could be coming out this season in college. And there's other free agents that could be out there. You don't work it out because –
yeah, every season there's an opportunity to add to your roster.
Also, because the money, you're strapped for money. So if you pay this guy, you're not going to be able to pay this guy.
I'm telling you right now, they are going to be strapped for money regardless. Even if they do pull off a trade for Dak Prescott, it's still going to be really hard to re-sign all these stars that are on this roster. And then what you're alluding to there as well is Jerry Jones. You have to look in the mirror. Jerry Jones is really a problem for Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, everybody's gonna give him all kinds of accolades, like, oh, he's the best owner, he's amazing, he's super involved in the league, he does all these different, he makes all these hard decisions, and he's able to get pull off a trade for Amari Cooper. But did he give up too much? I think so. A 1st-round pick? Are you kidding me? For a guy who's not elite in this league, that's too much. So he's managed him and his son, who helped run that team. They've done a tremendous job of adding talent, no doubt. However, now that they have all this talent, I don't think they've budgeted well. I don't think they've planned far enough ahead to be like, oh, well, we can re-sign everybody. We'll be fine. Now, don't get me wrong. The Cowboys will have some substantial cap space next year. And I think I looked it up recently. I think it's going to be close to around $40 million. It's substantial, but it's not enough. No, it's more than that. I think it's like close to 60, actually. It's substantial, but it's just not enough to re-sign a guy like Dak, to re-sign Zeke, to re-sign, maybe Amari Cooper. And then it doesn't just stop there this year, everybody. You also got to look at Jalen Smith is coming up really soon. There's others involved. Offensive linemen are going to have to be paid. Some of the defensive players, like I mentioned, Jalen Smith, but also there's guys that have been there before. DeMarcus Lawrence just got his check. It's just going to keep continuing. I think they're in financial purgatory, and this team as a whole, we talk about windows closing. Their window is almost shut. And it's because of these contracts that all these they're actually absolutely enormous contract enormous contracts that these players are looking for. And it's getting to a point where like Jim's right. The GMs are going to have to stand up and say the quarterback position, we can't pay above $35 million per year. No way. It's got to stop. It stopped with running backs. Running backs, it was getting absolutely nuts. You think back to Adrian Peterson, his last contract with the Minnesota Vikings, the guy was making $17 million a year. And I know that was like a little bit different of a time for the NFL, but then it seemed like after that contract with AP, it seemed like that's when GMs were like, no, we're not going to value running back position that much anymore. And all of a sudden you saw the contracts go from like 17 to like, now you're talking about $8 million, $7 million, $6 million, something like that. More reasonable. It's going to happen for every position. Receivers are not too far behind quarterbacks. There's even defensive players now that are almost making backup quarterback money. So I think there has to come a time and place here where the GMs, where the front office has got to take a stand and say, I'm sorry, we're just not going to pay this. If you want to try and go ahead and search for that kind of a contract, we'll gladly either trade you or go ahead and shop around. But if you come back to us, just so you know, we're still thinking this. So, I mean...
Yeah, unless something else changes with whatever cap space the teams are allowed to have, if they raise it or even if, we said when they do their talk about the CBA coming up, is there going to be profit sharing now that we're teams? Because that's the thing. The players are also complaining like, well, this is the biggest league in the whole world or whatever.
Right.
How are we not getting paid like it and stuff like that?
You are getting paid like it. The problem is that you have 53 guys on a roster every single team, all 32 teams. It's not like and this is the thing that's crazy. Yep. You have the NBA players. Oh, well, look at all the money that I'm making. I'm making tons of money. The NFL players are in an outrage.
He looked it up for us.
They're in an outrage about, NBA players make so much money and our sport is better rated than the NBA's. How come we're not making that kind of money? All these top tier athletes that we have. Well, it's quite simply because NBA per team has 12 guys. It's not a crazy large amount. So. And they have almost the same amount of teams as the NFL, but when you got like 12 dudes per team on a roster, I'm sorry, of course they can get paid a lot more. They can pay ridiculous amounts of money. So, 53 guys per 32, I'm sorry. You're still making great amounts of money.
Yeah, and what Mike Tackett brings it up, he looked it up for us. And see, this is what we're talking about here because we've seen this plenty of times where teams pay the quarterback because that's what they feel they need because it's an important position. But then the quarterback's left there with what? Nothing.
Right.
It's like, tumbleweeds rolling on the ground. It's like, okay, I'm here, but now who's here? Because here in 2020, they currently have $84 million, and they have 35 players whose contract is set to expire. 35 players.
And all those players are all low-budget contracts until they expire. So that right there shows you, we joke about it, financial purgatory, but there you go, right there from Mike Tackett, dropping that knowledge for that stat right there. That's where it's inevitable. They're going to have to rebuild this organization, this roster, because they're not going to all these different players. Now, 35 players, a lot of them are like backups and stuff like that. However, that's a large number. That's over half your roster. So and there's going to be big time contracts for a few guys just to keep them there to try to still have some cornerstones that you can build off of. But man, that's a lot of players. There's a lot of big names that are still very young, and they're going to want their money too. And I'm curious to see where Jerry Jones and company kind of handpicked who they want to re-sign because, quite honestly, I think you have to pay Zeke. He's your cornerstone of your offense. You got to pay him now. And Amari Cooper, I'm sorry. Amari Cooper wants top-tier wide receiver money. He wants to be paid like Antonio Brown, like OBJ, I mean, like Julio Jones. That's just crazy. Yeah. If Jerry Jones says, well, no, you can go shopping because when you find out what your real, what your real expectation is for a contract, then come back to me and we'll talk. But tough decisions ahead for the Cowboys. Good luck, Jerry and company.
Yeah,
but
we
it's
touched
going to be
upon
tough.
it with Jeff Levac. Like he said, because he knows he's a Raiders fan. He's seen Amari Cooper before.
Yeah.
We've seen what he could do, but we've seen also one whole season he had a case of the dropsies and things like that, and just not really great. This is like the first year where he went and changed a different team and really had a stellar performance, like to almost like a number one. Before they've been great, but,
was good.
decent. No, I hear you. He definitely saved the Cowboys, but again, not where you're like, all right, now you're in the talks of getting, Odell Beckham Jr. money and things
When
like
you're
that.
the-
If you
when
line
you're a
both those
top-
guys up next to each other, who are you taking?
When you're a top first-round pick, especially at wide receiver,
Right.
you're seen as an elite guy that's going to come in. Maybe not the rookie year, but second year, third year, you're supposed to make that huge leap and become that go-to guy, that the guy that no one can really defend or it's hard to defend you. A guy like Julio Jones, the Atlanta Falcons gave up the freaking meat market just to move up, just to get one player in Julio Jones. They were very convinced that he was going to be that elite, and sure enough, he was.
Yeah.
Good thing for them, and it's paid off huge dividends. But Amari Cooper, I am sorry. He is nowhere near elite, and I honestly don't think he ever will be. Now, he's one of the better route runners that I've been able to see. But when it comes to being that short-handed receiver, sometimes he does tend to drop the ball. He doesn't catch it as cleanly as he was in college.
You saw
at college he looked better
a little bit too.
So I'm sorry. He's fast and all that kind of stuff, but he does have his own faults, and hands is not as sure as once thought. So for a guy who I think, is he a good receiver? Absolutely. Is he a starting caliber receiver? Absolutely. But contract-wise, I honestly, I would pay him $12 million a year. But to pay a guy 16 plus, no way. Just can't see it. So
yeah, and what ruined it, I think, sometimes is some of the other teams that were desperate for somebody. Everybody brings up the Sammy Watkins deal again because he was more of a guy too.
$16 million.
You're like, why? I'm like, dude, this dude hasn't really showed us anything here, and you're doing this. You know what I'm saying? And that's where it's kind of wrecked it a little bit. You got the teams that would settle and do that because they're desperate for a guy.
Right.
And now this is what you're dealt with. But teams, like you said, value is key. If you look at any GM or any team, and that's what you talk about when you're selecting these guys, you want value. That's why for the Cowboys, when they grabbed Dak and they knew Tony Romo was going to be injured again or whatever issues he has, Dak was it fourth round, was he? Or
fourth round.
He was a great value pick, and when he stepped up and was in the game, was able to produce, and they're like, "Whoa, we've got value for him now." And this is maybe the highest value you could possibly have for him. But when you look at him again and all the indiscrepancies that he has, though, yeah, he's a good value for where he was. But is he that?
He's not your franchise type of quarterback.
Is he that kind of money?
And because
when you talk about it too, where if you look at the Rams, like we talked about the running backs, who did they pay? They paid Todd Gurley. Why? He's their bread and butter. Like you said, with Zeke, you got to pay him.
Yeah.
He's the one that runs it to. It ain't Jared Goff, and he's the quarterback, the most important position. He's still on his rookie deal. You know, and he
will be paid.
He will be getting paid.
Yep.
But what are they going to get for him now? How are you going to look at him and his value? Is it going to be top tier money? I don't think so either. I don't think it should be. I think it should be decent. I think it ain't going to be.
I know that's what you should think, but the market dictates what the contracts these guys are going to get. And here's the thing, though. Here's the thing about Jared Goff, though, is ever since Sean McVay has taken over that team, his play has excelled tremendously.
Oh yeah, I understand
so because of that track record and because of his age, of how young he is, he's going to get top tier money because you got to think longevity too. Now, if he was older. Like if he was 28, 29, then, maybe you think otherwise because, okay, yeah, he's getting a little long in the tooth. How much longer are we going to be able to have him? Those conversations get thrown into the mix. But, I just think that, when it comes to the Cowboys, you got to make the right decision here. And it's simple as this, has he been able to – here's the thing. I mean, they've actually witnessed it in game time. When Zeke got, he pulled a hamstring or kind of got, banged up on a tackle or something like that, had to come out with a few plays. Their offense struggled. because now it's all on Dak. Now it's like, okay, yeah, you can hand it off to the backup running back, but he's nowhere near like Zeke. And then now you got to throw the ball more. Now it's all on you. The defense is kind of relaxed now. They're like, hey, we don't have to really worry about the running game. Zeke's out. Let's concentrate on them. Let's get some pass rush going, and all of a sudden their offense kind of falls apart. So if that's the kind of quarterback that you have, a guy that cannot take over a game or at least help balance that offense, he's not the guy for the future. You cannot pay him top-tier money. I don't care what Dak is looking for or what the market has dictated, but you may have to think about possibly moving on from Dak now.
Yeah, so there you go. Mike Tackett, he throws it out there. Good question. He's got us fired up. We love to talk a little Dak Prescott and what he's worth and money like that. And we'll see what's going on. You know, as the season moves further. What do they do? But we know that out of the Dallas camp, they said they're going to make sure he gets paid. Now, is it going to be what he wants? I don't know about that. You know, so we'll see what number they finally settle on and what they end up doing with the other players that they need to do.
Take care we already heard that Dak wants $34+ million around that area per year. Well, can you honestly look at Russell Wilson, who just kind of got that contract, Aaron Rodgers, who kind of got that contract, and you put Dak Prescott in? Are you actually going to talk Dak Prescott up in that kind of realm? With those two guys?
Where you start
I'm
to
sorry.
lay it in there.
No way.
Yeah. And like when we talked about, was it a few years ago with the quarterback from the Detroit Lions, Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
Everybody was up in arms on the contract he got. He's not even really worth that.
Before Stafford was Derek Carr.
Yeah, but if you look at even the stats that he's done, though, too, he's like one of 4 players in his first couple of seasons here to put up the numbers that he's put up, you know, with yardage and touchdowns.
Right.
And people overlook that whole thing. And I'm like, if you wind, that's what you say. You start doing the comparison. Yep. Maybe we'll do a bracket challenge, the Dak Prescott bracket challenge.
That's right.
And we'll put these guys, you know, boom, where does he lie? What tier is he in this tier? We'll level out the tier where he is, because Matthew Stafford and, you know, we'll say him and I think he belongs near where Russell Wilson is. Maybe not that exact tier, but right in there. Maybe if you got tier 1, he's tier 2, like just barely around there too. Because again, just right now, some of the issues that he has is some of the personnel that he had around him, you know, and injuries. So if everybody can stay healthy now, maybe we'll be able to see what this Detroit offense could do, especially if they have a running game and he doesn't have to do short passes to create a running game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we'll see what happens with that. But again, would you rather take Matthew Stafford or would you take Dak Prescott?
Matt Stafford.
There you go. Would you rather take Jared Goff or would you rather take Dak Prescott?
Jared Goff.
There you go. See, so you're seeing him drift down further. You know, and maybe it's just our opinion. We'd love to hear everybody's opinion out there too. And it's not bashing.
Right. Honestly,
him or Mariota. Dak Prescott or Mariota?
Oh.
I would take Dak Prescott, I think, over Mariota.
I think I would take Dak, too.
Again, because he's definitely put more touchdowns up than interceptions, not like Mariota. And he's got sacked the second most sacks last season than in the NFL. So.
Yeah, but, I mean, you're looking at 2 different teams. Then you're evaluating both rosters type of thing. So just imagine if both quarterbacks were on the Cowboys roster. You know what I mean? Then that makes it a way more interesting question. Because who knows? Marcus Mariota on the Cowboys might do better. He might not. You don't know that until they're in that situation. So what's interesting about that scenario, though, is Dak Prescott, healthier. Mariota, more injured.
Yep.
And that's kind of where my decision was at. Do I think Mariota, if he was on the Cowboys roster, I think he would do pretty decent. I think he would do good. I think he'd do well. But because of the injury problems that he's had with Tennessee, that's what scares me about him.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a great conversation. Thank you, Mike, for all that. Joe, let's hit up some news.
This is The Drop.
Dolphins D-tackle Kendrick Norton was hospitalized and has had his arm amputated after a severe car crash. Our condolences go out to Kendrick Norton's family and friends. A truly tragic story and very disturbing. I mean, this was a young kid trying to make the roster for the Miami Dolphins. You know, super excited to get an opportunity. And, wow, I mean, to have that dream taken away because of a freak incident, a freak accident, and now his arm is gone. That's terrible. Dallas Cowboys defensive end, and your favorite Cowboy, Dallas, Randy Gregory, who is hardly on the field, is expected to apply for reinstatement yet again for his indefinite suspension within the next week to 10 days, according to David Moore of the Dallas Morning News. This guy, how many chances does a guy get? You know, we look at Josh Gordon, you know, he probably has the most chances out of anybody. Yeah. But, I mean, if you look at, you know, what he did is that he just can't stop smoking weed. And Randy Gregory, he just can't stop getting into either trouble or using performance-enhancing drugs or going back to getting in trouble again. What do you do with players like this? You know, they just keep reoccurring and getting into trouble over and over and over. At some point as the league, you have to kind of put your foot down and say, okay, no more chances. We give you, if you get more than 3 chances, I think that you shouldn't be allowed to participate in the league. It's a privilege to be there for one. And if you're not taking it that serious, obviously you don't think that much about being an NFL player. So I think after you listen, I'm all for giving a chance or 2. But when you go over 3 chances, I'm sorry. It's got to be done.
Me again.
Excellent. Former Patriots linebacker Teddy Bruschi hospitalized after suffering a stroke this past week. However, he is doing much better now, per Field Yates. Teddy Bruschi has also went to Twitter and kind of announced on, you know, after the whole, they were able to figure out that he was going under a stroke really quickly. They were on the phone. They got medical help right away, went to the emergency room, and now he's doing much better. He's recovering from it, and he's doing a decent job right there. So a scare.
Yeah,
for
that's the second one he's
Patriots.
had, and he's going to look at other opinions, see what's going on. And the brings up the key is to look for the signs.
Mm-hmm.
He started to slur his speech a little bit. You got to check that, and that saves lives.
And just so you know, he did tweet that out and had a photo of what to look out there for signs. So if you're interested in it, go ahead into our group so you can find out what all those signs are. For your loved ones.
Yes, absolutely.
Former Detroit Lions and Houston Texans safety Glover Quinn is retiring at the age of 33 following a 10-year NFL career, according to Michael Rothstein of ESPN. 10-year career, man. I mean, I'm sorry. If you can make it in the NFL league for 10 years, I don't care if you're a career backup, a superstar, just an average starter, but 10 years is a very, very long time in the NFL. And amazing job by Glover Quinn.
Yeah, he was one of the good ones. I liked him.
The 2019 NFL Supplemental Draft was
today,
today, everybody.
Today. Yes.
Was today. And only one player was selected, none other than safety Jalen Thompson. The Arizona Cardinals took him with their 5th-round pick. So they are going to get the rights to Jalen Thompson, work him out at safety. Hopefully he works out for them. And here's the interesting thing about the supplemental draft. Some people out there don't even know what the supplemental draft is. What it is where college athletes, either no matter what they're going through, they missed their opportunity, they got kicked out of school, something kind of extraordinary that happens with their college career, and they either that or they were suspended and they can't no longer play football. After the 3-year term that they're supposed to sit out and not enter the draft, when they get the opportunity, they're able to enter in what they call supplemental draft. They're not coming directly from a college, really. They're more like just out there, like kind of like almost like problem children, or there was discrepancy on availability. So he entered his name in the supplemental draft. Now this is not common to be even drafted. So whenever you are drafted, that same team gives up that draft pick. So in this case, the Cardinals are giving up a 5th-round draft pick, which they are no longer going to have a 5th-rounder for the upcoming draft because that's what they have to use in order to get his rights. So let's hope that it works
wisely.
out.
That's the thing. When you go to this pool of players,
right,
you have to realize what you're sacrificing.
And there's not a lot. There's not a tremendous amount of them. There's usually just a few names that are there, and teams, whether they're willing to roll the dice on a player or not, it's up to them. Usually they choose not to. And
He chose one.
so, and a lot of times it doesn't work out. But at least it's an opportunity. If they really believe in the kid, they give him a shot, and hopefully it works out for that team. The NFL suspended Tampa Bay Buccaneers corner Ryan Smith for the first 4 games of the 2019 regular season for violating of the league's performance-enhancing drugs policy, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. There you go. Randy
Winners
Gregory.
don't use drugs.
Ryan Smith, I thought you would have learned, after, Randy Gregory's, problems, but apparently players just keep getting found out. They keep getting caught. I just don't understand. Like, you're not going to get away with it. You might get away with it in the short term, but it doesn't last.
What an idiot. Oh,
Agreed.
What a loser.
And now you have to suffer the consequences. So, Robbie Gould has hinted he won't sign a new contract ahead of the franchise tag deadline. The two sides have until July 15th to work out either a multi-year contract or he could sign the 1-year tender worth roughly $5 million. Or he could go option C, just not show up.
That's why I brought it up again a couple weeks ago. And this is interesting here. We never seen a kicker do something like this, and he is putting his foot down.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if he is willing to hold out.
I'm sorry.
To play this season.
I'm sorry. I think he's going to hold out as long as he possibly can. But in the end, $5 million, dude.
Dude.
Signed the 1-year tender.
What does his wife do, though? Maybe she makes a lot of money.
Usually.
Honey, you're going to have to support me this year. If you really want me to come home, baby.
I'm sorry.
You would do this.
He's got enough money to
work
support
at Walmart
everybody.
overnights, too. Go ahead.
Not needed. But anyway, guys are millionaires. So, but for him, here's the thing: is he really does want to play badly back with the Chicago Bears. That's what this whole thing is revolving around. And the Niners just simply don't want to go without a kicker. At least the one that they can trust.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big deal. Some of these games are dictated by the kickers, whether they make a field goal or not. So, Robbie Gould is one of the best, and they just don't want to let him go. That's simple. So
it would have been easier if they didn't just get rid of Robbie Gould in the first place. The Bears.
The Bears
they just held on to him.
Yeah. What were they thinking?
Yeah. So shame on you.
That's why they're going through what they're going through right now. They can't even find one.
That's right. And
that's it for the drop, everybody.
Oh, there you go. There's it. All right. A lot of good fresh news here, Joe. I like it.
It's not bad for an uneventful week. We managed to scrounge up some news.
All right. Yeah, definitely. So don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at Football on the Know Show. In case anybody's even watching right now, we are streaming through Restream on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope right now. So I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Make sure you share it with friends, share posts. Follow us on Instagram, too. And what else we have here?
Just go to YouTube. That's all you need to do. Go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to get all the latest and greatest updated content from our show. That's really the bottom line that you need to do. Concentrate on YouTube. Just go on there and subscribe to us.
There you go. All right, so we're going to bring up our next segment here. The NFC North's biggest question. See, I said because I saw somebody chimed in here for a comment. It's Jack Connor. Jack Connor is in the house, Joe. See, that's what threw me off.
Captain Jack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We gotta do that. The Lonely Island. Can we get that without being copyright?
Sure. Why not? Let's just
get the Captain Jack Sparrow maybe for him.
Probably not
Captain
that.
Jack Sparrow. I don't know.
Definitely not that.
All right, here you go. So it's a DJ horn for. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there you go for Jack. Here we go. Option C, he like Le'Veon Bell. He goes option C here.
Yeah, and option C did not work out for Le'Veon Bell because this is a guy that wanted to be the highest paid running back and did not end up the highest paid running back. I think what happened with Bell is that teams saw how he was handling the situation with Pittsburgh. Instead of just playing out the year, you know what I mean? Sign the tender, play out the year, and move on in free agency. He decided to hold out, not even go back, create some turmoil there, and I think a lot of teams kind of backed off of Le'Veon's stance there, and they knew that wasn't the player. If that's what they were getting personality-wise, they kind of didn't want that in their locker room. So it took them a while to find a home, surprisingly. One of the best running backs in the league, and still is going to continue that that upscale play that he always gives on the field, but it's with a completely different team now, and it's not for as much money as he was trying to hold out for. He had probably maybe 2 other options. There wasn't a whole lot of market out there for him, and he chose the Jets. Why? I'm curious. Maybe it's because he wanted to help rebuild the New York Jets. And he saw like maybe there was a younger quarterback there, so it's something that he can grow with and therefore get better there with that offense. But here's the thing that's puzzling, though. They did go ahead and they signed Le'Veon Bell. They really kind of concentrated heavily on defense still. Already a very good defense. They end up adding C.J. Mosley, and they re-signed a couple guys, their own guys, Henry Anderson and so forth. They got some good corners there. They got great safeties in the back, young safeties. A great linebacking core now. Avery Williamson is going to be there also alongside CJ. But offensively, not a whole lot of attention done on the offensive side. It was just Le'Veon Bell pretty much signed and Jamison Crowder, one of the better slot receivers in the league. That's going to give Sam Darnold some confidence there. But the offensive line is pretty much the same. It's not improved in any way. They're kind of like an average, below average type of offensive line. I thought that's something that they should have concentrated on, especially adding Bell. And, honestly, when I look at their roster on offense, they don't scare me. Robbie Anderson, to me, is their best receiver that they don't really use in all routes. Maybe that changes with Adam Gase. Maybe he's going to turn him into more of a well-rounded receiver, hopefully. But after that, you really have Jamison Crowder and then really nothing scary. So
the thing is with the Jets, though, too, it's like Adam Gase, he had success there with the when he was working with Jay Cutler before, earlier on in his career. But since then, like when he went to Miami, I didn't see like a real turnaround and something crazy like he's the guru with this offense here. So I don't know exactly what he's going to be able to do here with this offense. Yes, Le'Veon Bell has to be, like you said, the focal point of your team here. Right. What depth do you have at wide receiver is questionable, and you got to trust in their defense, and having Greg Williams as their coach and defensive coordinator, that's a positive sign there too as well. So they're going to be a defensive strong team, and hopefully Adam Gase, isn't going to have a debacle like he kind of had in Miami. You can't forget about that.
No, you can't. But also, they didn't have a quarterback. They had to kind of play like.
Well, here you've got also just a young quarterback.
You have
who
a young
turns
one
the ball over a lot. So hopefully they can fix that this season.
Right. You're going to have to help develop him and groom him into being the quarterback that he wants to fit in this offense that he's going to show up. The other thing about that too is that Adam Gase is going to have a longer leash now because he's a new head coach coming in, new offense being implemented with a young quarterback.
And Jack, he chimes in here too about the Steelers. They benefited from Le'Veon Bell walking away and getting James Conner here.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about benefiting. Like you said, like they've weathered the storm and they've kind of did, like we said, go ahead, teams, time to put your foot down. They're one of those teams that press their luck. Luckily, they had a few guys, running backs, Samuels and Connor, who could produce when they're there. Yeah. But you saw now towards the end of the season, James Conner trying to tail off. He was
also banged up too.
He was banged up. Yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. Like, was he able to withstand a whole season by himself?
Right.
So now a second season here along the lines. So maybe he's getting a little more endurance there.
Right. The one thing I'll say about the Pittsburgh Steelers is I was completely behind them in that whole situation. Because here's the thing. This is what the Steelers have done great for quite some time now is they draft great talent, and you don't get to find out that talent until they get a shot. James Conner, they took middle, kind of like a middle pick. Maybe it was a third-round pick or so, but they had him brewing and waiting, developing in him behind Le'Veon Bell. So if something ever happened, they had confidence in James Conner to come in and play. And it goes the same way for the receiving core. They move on from Antonio Brown. And everyone's like, oh, well, but they still have Juju Smith-Schuster. They got James Washington that they really like, and they have a plethora of decent receivers behind him. They got a lot of depth there. So this is a team that usually orchestrates this roster in such a way where they even if they lose a big-time target, they're able to kind of still be okay. They're going to work around it, and it just showed there last season, with James Conner. So Le'Veon Bell leaving, I'm sorry, it's going to hurt them. I think it's going to hurt them a lot, especially now that you have Antonio Brown gone. So you got two major pieces, Pro Bowl type players now that have left that offense. Now you better hope that Juju Smith-Schuster can excel against not single team defense now. Now he's going to be the one double covered a lot. So or shadowed over on that side of the field. So and James Conner, like you just brought up, can he withstand a whole season? Can he stay healthy the whole season? This is going to be questions that are going to be answered this upcoming year, and it's insane.
Now, Jack B, and I think he's a Jets fan. I think he follows the Jets or at least supports them. We asked Levac about this now too, what he thought about the Jets, and he was high on them, thinking they could possibly go 10-6. We'll see if they're lucky. Like, he wasn't setting a prediction. He was just saying, "Oh, maybe I could see him do this." But we also in that question brought up the fact that if you look at their schedule, it's pretty difficult. I mean, they have to face not only the other teams that are in their division, which are tough, but they also face the NFC East and a couple other teams. Like I think the Bears, I think they even faced to at one point. Yep. I mean, it's tough. A lot of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are coming back, a different team in a sense this year. With actually a quarterback too as well. So tougher outs for the New York Jets. So they're going to be tested. So for them to be 10-6, I mean, that would be a prayer for them. But what is your take, Jack, on that whole thing? Do you think Le'Veon Bell is going to be able to produce and still be that elite running back there with them, despite the discrepancies that they have? And Levac brought up the fact that fantasy, he started to delve into a little bit of fantasy and research. He's noticed that he's not very high on draft boards. You know what I'm saying?
He's like 5th rated running back on draft boards. Now, here's the thing: is like when you talk about fantasy football, like I know he's like, "Oh, I'm going to take him earlier," and I'm like, "Why?" Because there's younger and more impactful running backs like a Melvin Gordon, a guy who is in his own right. He's kind of similar to Bell, but not really. Like he's a great receiver as a running back. He's also a phenomenal running back, but a little bit different. He's definitely a lot different. He's a quick, a lot shiftier. He's got some speed to him and everything. He is a little bit more physical than his stature represents, but there's a running back to me that I would draft over Bell. I think he's already established in an offense with the Chargers, knows his role. You know week in and week out how they're going to use him. Guys like that, those are the guys I'm going to be drafting higher than Le'Veon Bell. Bell, I'm not really sure. He's going to be the focal point of this offense, but Adam Gase's offense, how is it going to work for him? We've only seen him throughout his whole entire career as a Pittsburgh Steeler. He fit perfectly with them, did great with them. I think he's still going to be a great player, but now that you're on a completely different team with a very young quarterback, a second-year quarterback, how afraid our defense is going to be of your quarterback, of your passing game? I don't think very much. I think that week in and week out, Le'Veon Bell is going to be the focal point of each defense. They're going to try to shut down Bell and make Sam Darnold throw the ball because Sam Darnold just makes mistakes. He's done that all the way through college, So and it hasn't changed yet. Maybe it will with Adam Gase. We'll have to wait and see.
There you go. So that's some valid points there, and we enjoy the comments and the conversation here, Jack. Definitely for chiming in. And we're going to get to our next segment here, our last segment of the night, the NFC North's biggest questions, Joe. All right. Let's bring up the Chicago Bears first, Joe. Now the Bears, my biggest question for the Bears is are the Bears ready to take the next step here? We saw what they did last year. We were high on the Bears and what they potentially could do, that they were going to be an improved team, and they exceeded my beliefs in what they could do along with that. So to actually go up there and do what they did. Yeah, so, but then they also get the trade for Khalil Mack, too, as well, and got even better. So now you look at this team, and you look at the roster. They're fully stacked. So the sky is the limit here for this team. What do you think they're going to be able to now go to NFC Championship game, or what's your take on this?
This is a roster right now on paper. And unfortunately they came in in the first round of the playoffs, got knocked out by the Eagles. A lot of people, me included, I thought the Bears were going to be able to, weather the storm and win that game. They lost by 1 point, everybody. Such a killer. And at the end, everybody was blaming Cody Parkey because, he missed the field goal at the end. No, if you look at the replay and look at it closely, that ball gets deflected by a defensive tackle. So, and it just got enough of it, just enough to make it edge out wide, just enough. So, it wasn't Cody Parkey's fault. Cody, I got your back, bro.
There you go.
In the end, what an absolute heartbreaker for the Chicago Bears. This is a team that I thought was going to make a huge push into the last season's playoffs, and unfortunately it didn't work out in the end. But this roster right now, I mean, another year coming back. The defense is nasty. They're healthy. The offensive line is finally 100% healthy coming back into this. Now, here's the thing. Like we always say, almost every week we say, you got to stay healthy. It's super important. To this team, it's most important out of everybody because this team, I definitely think, could make a Super Bowl run this season. We've seen what they can do on defense. Now with another, now a third year with Mitch Trubisky, with a second year with his new toys and Allen Robinson and Taylor Gabriel. And here's an interesting thing is you have Anthony Miller, who kind of came on strong his rookie year.
Yep.
They took another wide receiver this season in Riley Ridley from Alabama. This is a kid who's good. I think he could develop into a nice piece for this offense and make it even more explosive. Now you have a four-headed monster at receiver, a couple of young guns that can take over when Allen Robinson decides to move on, or Taylor Gabriel. So they got really good depth, and their tight end Trey Burton, not to mention one of the fastest tight ends in the league, a guy who gets out there and gets the ball. He's hard to stay with. Good luck, linebackers. This team is built to win now. The only major change for this offense, though, and by subtraction, is that they decided to move on from Jordan Howard.
Yep.
They ended up pulling off a trade and moving him on. What was it, to the Eagles?
Eagles, he was with the Eagles. Yep.
Good luck, Jordan. That's where running backs go to die.
Yes, he is. Farewell.
But now here's what's interesting is, you and me love this kid. We love this kid. Ever since we saw the first time he was on the football field, Tariq Cohen. I mean, what a gamer. He's like a joystick on the football field. Good luck trying to tackle him.
He is the Madden cheat code. If he is not a 99, like the cheat code on Madden, I don't get it. Cause
he's absolutely amazing. Definitely should have 99 speed in Madden. That's all
absolutely.
I know.
That's true.
Super shifty. He's hard to tackle, extremely hard to tackle in the open field, can catch out of the backfield, deadly. Now, here's the thing is you look at him in his stature, his physical stature, he's a little guy, super short, one of the shortest guys, and but he is strong. You look at him, he looks real tiny, but he is strong. He can take a pounding a little bit. Now, is he going to be the featured back of this offense? That's going to be intriguing. They did go ahead and sign in free agency Mike Davis, coming over from Seattle, who is more of that banger type back. So I think he's going to fill in the role of what Howard left, and he'll be more the physical back, a short yardage guy. But he's also pretty fast himself for being a bowling ball. So this is a nice tandem that they got going right here, and I hope Tariq Cohen gets a lot more plays, more snaps.
Yeah, I hear you there, because that's what I thought they needed a little bit last year. Still get this guy on the field, and I think the only reason why they do keep him back as a number 2 back, not exactly full starter, because of his frame. They like to let somebody else be, like you said, the bowling ball or just the ground to pound a little bit. And take some of that off, because also they do have him as a punt returner too. He plays the special teams, so he's also there. And also on the kick returns, they bring in Cordarrelle Patterson there too to lighten the load. I think there too as another return guy. So we'll see. Hopefully, then that means a little more touches on the offense for Tariq Cohen, because whenever this guy does have the ball, it's lights out. And you even saw last year in that big play he had that got called back on that hold or whatever. That was ridiculous. Dude's throwing, that's what I mean. He is like the Bo Jackson of Tecmo Bowl. Like, he's the cheat code. It's amazing what this guy does. We're high on the Bears. They also draft David Montgomery here at the running back position too. So let's see where they place him. And this key, though, to this offense, again, is where all eyes are going to be on. Mitch Trubisky's development. Again, the knock on him was he didn't get a lot of playing time in college, so that we weren't sure what we were going to get.
Right.
This guy comes in the NFL, and it seems like he's got mobility. He can find the open guy. Sometimes, he's getting better at finding him quicker than what he was.
Right.
But I think the key to the success for this team is this offense and how Mitch Trubisky runs it. All right, we've got
definitely.
Hollywood Gaming Pro. He's like 5'8", and he's still making guys look silly.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Hollywood Gaming.
What's going on, Hollywood?
Yeah, definitely, man.
Welcome to the
Excellent.
show.
Definitely. We're going to give him the DJ horn, too. That's awesome. Jack Connor brought up a comment here, too, when we asked him about the Jets.
Okay.
What he says. He says, well, Bell has gained some weight, and he will be slower this year, and that's common when you take a year off. And he's in a new system. I just think it's going to be a process getting Bell in, and I don't think he's going to pop off right away, but I don't think he'll do bad either. But the Jets can rely on him to carry the team, especially coming off a year where he didn't play. Well, they're kind of going to have to.
That's
and also the good thing though that they did bring Bilal Powell back there too. Again, he came off of an injury,
severe neck injury.
Severe neck injury. They have him here, and when you saw when he was in making plays. He was doing well, and that was great.
Oh,
he's always
really
been
good,
a steady back for them. That's kind of like never really gotten a lot of appreciation, I think, out of a lot of people.
I think
this guy
he's
is
great.
Yeah,
he's great.
He carries a bit of a workload here and there, and he's produced for them. So I mean, that's going to be a nice 1-2 combination for them. But again, everybody knows the game
also
plan.
the McGuire kid.
Yeah,
he's another like
exactly.
slash type running back. So he'll pay off dividends for them this year.
So
as
I mean,
well.
that's what I think they got to mix it around a little bit, and we'll see. Because that's everybody's game plan: stop Bell or the running game, and pin their ears back and go after Sam Darnold, try and make him turn over the ball like he did a bit last year.
Right.
So. There you go. So the Bears, again, the question was, are they ready to take the next step? I think so. And again, it all lays down, I think, on the play of Mitch Trubisky. And that's basically it. They've got everything. Their defense, you can't ask any questions. Roquan Smith last year getting in.
Great.
After
Great
all
rookie.
that, finally getting ready to come in. He comes in. I think the first play he comes in the game, he made a play. It was like, this guy's
destroys people.
ridiculous.
That's what he does for a living,
So,
just destroys people.
I mean, the rich got richer on that whole deal.
And
So-
the other funny thing about this defense is a lot of people also
yeah,
were like,
see, he just brought up McGuire. See,
Yeah.
there you go.
a
So,
lot of people too are talking about, oh well, Adrian Amos left in free agency. Oh, what are they going to do with that safety position? It was kind of funny though that the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears, basically all they did was swap
In a
safeties.
sense, yes.
So Adrian Amos goes to the Packers and gets a good deal there, and Ha Clinton Dix finds his home in Chicago. Now this is interesting because this is kind of it's a move that on Ha Clinton Dix's part, where wouldn't it be funny is he's won a Super Bowl with Green Bay, he gets signed by Chicago, and then they make their Super Bowl run and end up winning it all. It was like it would be the perfect decision at the perfect time for him to jump ship. So they don't lose anything now that they have Ha Clinton Dix. This defense, Eddie Jackson to go next to him. This is another really young stud of a safety. Super dynamic. He makes plays on pass defense. He intercepts the ball. He does everything well. I'm sorry. This Bears team on paper right now, I'm super jacked about. I can't wait to watch some football and see this team play. Even though, I'm a little biased here because I'm a Raiders fan. I'm kind of hoping that they suck. Even though with this roster, it's not going to happen because we get their first-round pick this year. I want a little higher one.
There you go. There you go. Exactly.
But, yeah, I'm sorry, but this roster is just absolutely phenomenal. Watch out. And it is predicated mostly on what you were saying, Mitch Trubisky's development, too. He has his toys that he had from last year. He gets another year with them, some more rapport, some more chemistry. This offense as a whole should take another step forward. So they are a dangerous team to watch for sure.
There you go, absolutely. Now let's move on to the Detroit Lions here now. They talk about injuries again. This is what happens every year, and this really is the main factor a lot for teams. You got to stay healthy. You got to do that. The one thing is he had his main guy, Golden Tate, that he could rely on and trust. He gets traded away to Philadelphia. So then all of a sudden Matt Stafford's like, all right, what'd you leave me with? Kerryon Johnson gets injured. I mean,
Matt Stafford was pissed. He was pissed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm like, what are you left with? The defense was suspect at times. Zeke Ansah was not, again, he was his put-up year. They had to sign him to the franchise tag and say, listen, dude, you need to stay healthy. You need to produce this year. And he didn't. So then there you go. So now you're not the guy you think you are. Hollywood Gaming chimes in here. He goes, you think Aaron Rodgers will bounce back with a statement year, maybe go deep in the playoffs? I tell you what, with a vamped defense, we're going to talk about it in a little bit. Great defense behind him now. Some extra weapons here, too, along with them. And everybody's staying healthy with a running game.
Very
Get
young
the running
weapons.
game going.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, anything's the sky's the limit with Aaron Rodgers. I am not surprised that they get, after being a double seasons out of the playoffs, bouncing back into it here and making a run.
He could. And, and they've had a little bit of a hiatus from the playoffs. They used to be one of those teams where, like, you could
They went
almost
11 straight, I think,
you could
didn't they?
almost pretty much count them in the playoffs no matter what season until the last couple of years. And Packer fans pretty much don't know how to react. I mean, it's uncommon for their team not to be in it. You could see them in it this year, I think. And here's the interesting thing about this Packers season coming up is the unknowingness of Matt LaFleur's offense.
Yeah, that's
this
the
is,
main question
It's
mark.
a
Absolutely.
completely new offense. It's an offense where, interestingly enough, doesn't have a ton of audibles, which is what Aaron Rodgers is accustomed to when he was with Mike McCarthy. He was able to change plays on a whim. And this year will be interesting to see how Aaron Rodgers and LaFleur kind of create a relationship here, see how well that shakes out. And in the end, we're going to see how this offense is on the field.
Absolutely. That's the thing to look at this season. We are streaming through Restream, and so right now we're streaming through YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope right now at the same time. We are getting some comments here from Facebook now, and Jack Connor says, Kerryon Johnson is nice when he's healthy. Yeah, absolutely. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got Theo Riddick there still, too, but again, he's shown that he can't exactly be their running back. He's great in the backfield on receiving a little bit, too, getting the passing game going.
Right.
But a 1-2 punch with them, as long as they stay healthy, too, that will help alleviate some of the issues here and get
Some of the stress on the pass-
especially
on the
with
passing
Matthew
game.
Stafford taking hits. That guy is like an Iron Man,
Oh.
getting banged up.
One
and
of the
still
toughest
throwing in there
quarterbacks in
and
the
sticking in there
league.
and making it happen.
And Kerryon Johnson, real quick, that was his rookie year, everybody. That was his first year in the league. And when he was healthy, like Jack mentioned, he was taking the league by storm. I mean, a lot of people were actually not a lot. A few people were high on this kid coming out of the draft. I was one of those guys. I really liked his ability to not only be a physical type of running back, but also be elusive as well. And he has great hands. Much like Theo Riddick. Now, Theo Riddick is just seen as a receiving back, so they do have a nice they do feed off each other, a nice compliment to each other. So, Kerryon Johnson, I expect a huge season from him, especially fantasy football. To watch out for him. Yes, does he have to remain healthy? Absolutely. But it was his rookie year. It could have been just a freak injury this year. Watch for him to bounce back in 2019.
Knees are crazy, so you never know a lot of times. I think they just played it safe there. Right. Which player, Mike Tackett says here, which player will have the most impact with their new team in 2020? I say Antonio Brown is a close second, but D Ford runs away with it. Revamped D and Nick Bosa causes mismatches, giving Ford opportunities to showcase his skills.
Here's the interesting thing about that whole scenario is that, the Kansas City Chiefs didn't see that D Ford could play 4-3 end. And that's kind of where he's lined up right now with the 49ers. So did you really want, instead of just keeping him there on a lower contract, mind you, the Niners signed D Ford to a lower deal than what Kansas City did when they traded for Frank Clark. They paid him a huge amount of money to be their defensive end. So I think Kansas City Chiefs really lost that whole trade. And here's the thing is, you're right. It's a revamped defense. Nick Bosa comes in. Got to be super excited if you're a 49er fan. They have just assembled one of the best defensive lines in football and youngest. The only thing that I'm worried about is Nick Bosa, which a lot of concerns coming out of the draft were his injuries. He's already pulled his hamstring, has been out for almost all of the OTAs. He looks to be healthy for training camp. Now, how far into training camp until he gets banged up again? It's happened to him in Ohio State quite often. So how long is he going to be on the field for the whole regular season? That remains to be seen. As long as Bosa is healthy and is on the field, yeah, you're right, Mike. I think D Ford could take a huge step forward and really show what he can do as a 4-3 end.
Yeah, absolutely. And Antonio, that is a good close second. I'm trying to think of anybody else, though, too, because, again, when you look at the Raiders, that's the one issue they had. That's why they were kind of willing to trade away Amari Cooper and to get a first-round pick. They were like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, it's
like,
we've got a first round.
Wait, hold on. Let me get this straight.
Brown.
Let me get this straight for a second here. Dallas is willing to give us a first-rounder? We were asking for a second. Oh, okay, yeah, we'll take a first-rounder, no problem.
Yeah, exactly, right? And Hollywood Gaming chimes in. He's talking to Mike Tackett. See, Mike Tackett is commenting through Facebook, and he says Nick Bosa will go off, which whoever asked that. It's Mike Tackett here.
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's expected for Bosa to go off. The biggest problem that he's always had, those injuries, so that's really where it's going to be. If he stays healthy, he's going to be a dominant player on the football field. Mm-hmm. How often is he going to be on the football field, though? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of another impact player that would change the franchise. I mean, it's tough. I mean,
Kyler Murray.
Yeah, there you go. You know, they're going to be televising all like their first 3, I think, preseason games. I think,
really?
Or something like that, or something like it's going to be on national TV or something like the Arizona Cardinals games.
All right.
It's that big that they're so excited about Kyler Murray over there in Arizona. All right, so questions about the Detroit Lions. Here, my question. We were just jammed right into it. I didn't get even ask one here, but. Will the Lions finally utilize the tight end position here? You know, they had
that would be great,
they
right?
had Eric Ebron. Look what he's doing over there in Indianapolis now with Andrew Luck.
I know.
What I mean, just lighting it up, wants to break Gronk's record and stuff.
Right.
You know, so they did get drafted T.J. Hawkinson here in the first round here this year in the draft.
Great pick.
And they got Jesse James now, who kind of last year with the injury and kind of just backdoored it a little bit to McDonald in Pittsburgh. Comes here now, so you got a 1-2 punch here at tight end, along with healthy receivers here. There you go, Jadeveon Clowney. Impact player?
No.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm not going to say impact player.
Most impactful.
Jadeveon Clowney to me he's a good player. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But he's not elite in my eyes. In my opinion, he's not elite. J.J. Watt, elite. That's the kind of stature where you want to be. I get it. Jadeveon Clowney, the past couple of years, he's had around 9 sacks. That's a good sack total for all season, but I think he has the talent to be better than that. I think he should be at least in double digits every year. But for being a number 1 overall pick, I don't see that production matching up there. So
and Mike Tackett said with their new team, so somebody that just joined another team, what kind of impact will they have too? So
yeah, that's true.
Trying to think. That's why I thought maybe OBJ a little bit because I mean they already had. Jarvis
Landry, because he's new.
He's the newest one, and so the one that'll probably help take him over the step, like some people would assume.
Right,
he would. So we'll see there.
Gotcha.
But yeah, here they're utilizing the tight end position here. The Detroit Lions, that's their main issue. They were even doing, despite Ziggy Ansah not playing very well last year, their defense was their highlight of their team. But like you also said, Glover Quinn, he's not there, so Ansah's moved on. And so you're looking at the tight ends now, your offense stepping up. They were injury-plagued last year. Kenny Galladay, though, had a great season with 70 receptions and 1,063 yards, 5 touchdowns, and only 13 starts. So imagine if he started the whole every game, you know what I'm saying? So, and Kerryon Johnson, he's looking to have a breakout year, I think, coming off of that season-ending injury
100%.
like we talked about before with the knee. Because, again, I bring up again, in 2018 – the offensive rankings were pitiful. In points, they were 25th. Yardage, 24th. Passing yards, 20th. And running yards, 23rd. So all in the late 20s around here. Not very good for a team that wanted to be able to be Patriot-esque in a sense, too, because, where they come from is that bloodline there for the head coach.
Yeah, Matt Patricia.
Patricia. Not what they wanted to do and step up to. Defensively, they're still strong, but they, especially that blowout loss first to the Jets there, that was embarrassing. So they're looking to come back this year and produce here. But what do you think, Joe? They're finally going to utilize the tight ends, though, and get it going.
I mean, you would hope so. I mean, it's taken them how long? They keep saying that. And here's the craziest thing about Detroit. The last couple of all seasons, that's all they've added is tight ends, it seems like. They used to have Luke Wilson from Seattle. They signed him to a deal. They had Eric Ebron there, who they drafted originally, and they still never used the guy. I get it. He wasn't the healthiest guy on the roster, but when he was healthy, you should have been using him a lot more than you were. I mean, this is a position in this offense that really doesn't get used. So I hope for the sake of T.J. Hawkinson that he's going to get used. He's a first-round draft pick tight end. He was the number 1 tight end taken. A lot of people saw him as the number 1 tight end out of the draft. And I'm sorry, Detroit. You're taking this guy in the first round. You better use the guy because you don't have Golden Tate anymore as your possession-type receiver. But you do have, Galladay, Kenny Galladay there. You also have Marvin Jones. So you got a nice 1-2 punch still at receiver. But T.J. Hawkinson, he's got to be the next go-to guy to move the sticks up the middle of the field. This kid he's fast. He can also block, which is a rare quality that tight ends not a lot of times have. So make it count. Make this draft pick count. Utilize him, and it's going to help your offense. It's going to help Stafford out. I mean, Stafford's got to be very ecstatic about this draft pick here. And Kerryon Johnson, like Jim mentioned before, like we've been talking about for a while, we're high on him. We think it's going to be his breakout year this year. And then you look on this defense. The defense is actually pretty solid. They didn't have a great year on defense last season. They were banged up here and there. Darius Slay was beaten up a little. Their best corner was beaten up a few times. And with Quandre Diggs' retirement, now begs the question, well, who's going to replace him? What do they really have in the back end? They do still have the young Miles Killebrew from Boston College who's playing well, so he's going to still be there now to fill that other hole where Quandre once was. They did take a guy out of the 3rd round in Will Harris. Maybe he takes over that role. Maybe it's the free agent Tavon Wilson from the New England Patriots. It's going to be interesting for training camp to see who wins that battle. But overall, this team, they come back. I think they made the best decision they ever made was not signing Ziggy Ansah. The guy was never on the field. So watch out for the Detroit Lions. Do I think they're going to win the division? No, I don't think they're going to win the division. This is a very tough division, but I think they'll be better than last year.
Mm-hmm. There you go. More chiming in here from Facebook. Jack Connor says Odell. So, yeah, that was a high impact possibly for this team. And Hollywood Gaming brings up again, what if Jadeveon Clowney could play every game this year?
That would be nice, too.
It would be nice, too. But that's like when we talked about a little earlier.
Right.
I don't know, he wasn't able to catch it or not. We're talking about when you grab – he was drafted 1st overall in that particular draft. That, along with that, brings a certain type of expectations. When you're valued at that, we're talking about value. And one thing, stay on the field, health. You have to be able to do it. 2, the impact that you are doing. Yes, when he's on there, he is a bit of a terror. But also, what I've noticed when watching some of the games, when you've got J.J. Watt up there and they're trying to get in and we have to cover him, Clowney comes up and basically bats cleanup. He kind of cleans up some of the messes. Pressure that J.J. Watt produces, he comes around the other corner and nails the sack or the tackle here and there. But also, despite all that, J.J. Watt is still doubling him in points and things like that.
Absolutely.
He is a later draft pick that they had, so it's great value. Yeah. So for a guy, again, that's asking to get paid, and wants, a bigger money deal.
Contract.
That's where I kind of be like, I don't know, man. Yeah, you haven't really showed me again, so I don't know about that. And as far as impact, yes, he can impact the team when they're on there, but greatest, I still think for that particular team on defense, it has to be J.J. Watt, who doesn't even play completely healthy in the last couple of seasons and produces, like I said, double the amount of yardage here.
100%, man.
And if you look back at, say, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, T.J. Watt was neck and neck with JJ, and
brother.
He's not making and asking for the big bucks right now.
Well, he's a rookie.
So
he's still on that rookie
that's
deal.
what I'm saying, though. This is what kind of level of production, and he wasn't the first drafted overall in first pick overall in that particular draft. So you're looking at expectations and you're looking at value. All right, excellent. Point set. And there you go. Drop the mic. All right. All right. So we're gonna move on from the Detroit Lions and go into the Green Bay Packers here. We were just talking about the Green Bay Packers. Hollywood Gaming brought up the fact about Aaron Rodgers. Will they be able to come back to the promised land here and do something here? And that's sort of the questions where we brought it up. We said it when we were talking to Hollywood. Will Matt LaFleur's offense be balanced or one-dimensional? And will they mesh together? We've already heard now. He's like, well, Aaron Rodgers this year has been vocal, in the offseason. It's great. He's like, well, apparently the offense doesn't really have a lot of audibles or give me more power. And you would think that with somebody of my stature who can do a lot more things that other quarterbacks can't do,
right?
That I should be able to have that power to create audibles or change the play if I feel like I should,
Yeah,
So,
but, little did Aaron know that with his new head coach and the new offense that's going to be instilled in Green Bay, that's what he had in Tennessee. He doesn't give quarterbacks the opportunity to audible all the time. There's a lot less audibles in this offense, which isn't going to sit well with Aaron Rodgers because there's going to come times in the season where it could be 3rd and 4 before the third and goal at the 4-yard line. And he calls, a tight end cross in, tight end post or something, tight end slant, and the coverage doesn't look right to Aaron. And guess what? There's no audible for that play. You can't audible to a run. You can't audible to a different type of passing play. And he's going to be stuck using that play and have to try to figure something out.
And we know last year there was disagreements and arguments with Mike McCarthy when he decided to change some of the plays. And when we bring up the fact that are they going to be more balanced, we've been trying to see what's going to happen if they can put Jamal Williams there with Aaron Jones together healthy completely and running the ball, balancing out this offense and giving them opportunities instead of saying, oh, it's a 3rd and short. They need to try and make this, it's another short passing play or something.
Right.
It's like everybody knew what they were going to do. I could see it right there. I'm like, I already know what this play is going to be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If I know that I know those lot smarter defensive players, that have been playing the game are already picking up on it. So.
Yeah, the one thing that now Matt LaFleur has is a veteran quarterback that's been there, done that, who's one of the best to do it. He's also one of the best at creating time when a play does break down and manages to find something open, and it's in a miraculous play. The thing about going into this offense, I hope Matt LaFleur actually taught himself from last year what to do. Because when they used Derrick Henry more in that running game, they started to notice more and more, wow, we had this guy the whole time. We haven't been utilizing him in this offense, and now we're running like crazy in the second half of the season. Why didn't we do this earlier?
Yeah.
So now take that same knowledge going to Green Bay. You still have not one but 2 good running backs that Aaron Rodgers could hand the ball off of, and it could make this offense more balanced, which makes in turn Aaron Rodgers more dangerous, which makes in turn the wide receivers open more often. So I'm just saying, I hope you learned, Matt. Bring that knowledge over to Green Bay. One of the best quarterbacks you have in your back pocket. Unleash the fury.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, Mike Tackett from Facebook joins in. Also, Hollywood Gaming joins in, too. He says Adams is an animal at wide receiver. Yes, another guy that just came in through the ranks, gets his shot to be number 1, and lights it up. And he's got a great rapport with Aaron Rodgers, says. And Aaron Rodgers trusts him enough. So also because we've seen at times when he's overthrown him or just they were on the wrong page at one point in the play, and he goes right back to the huddle. He's like, give it back to me. I swear I'm going to get it this time. He goes right back to him, and boom, makes the play. So it's lights out, and hopefully we're looking to see Geronimo Allison another year here step up and, some other wide receivers make some more plays and not have to rely
Right. I really do like this
Adams.
young receiving squad that Green Bay has. In Quainius St. Brown, there's a guy that you need to keep an eye out for because he's developing just like these other 2 receivers like Geronimo Allison, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. These names developed behind Jordy Nelson, developed behind I always forget his name. Was it Randall Cobb?
Randall Cobb.
Yeah, because he's kind of irrelevant now.
Yeah.
But they've been developing behind those guys. Now that those 2 players have moved on, it gives these guys greater opportunity to show what they can do. Geronimo Allison, we've noticed last year make an impact in this offense with Davante Adams, one of the best receivers again in this league. He's made a great name for himself. One of the more sure-handed receivers, too. This guy's got phenomenal hands. If it's in catching grasp, he's coming down with it. So I like what they have in this young receiving squad, and I think it's going to bode very well for Aaron Rodgers.
And Mike Tackett from Facebook here. Here, I'll hit up Hollywood Gaming here quick because he just chimed in. Who's better, Adams or Diggs from the Vikings? Ooh.
I would say Davante Adams is better than Diggs.
There you go.
And the reason is because I think Davante Adams is more of a complete wide receiver, if that makes sense. I see Diggs as more of that, speed type receiver to take the the roof. Just take the roof off of the defense
Yep.
and go deep a lot. I think I see him more as a deep threat type receiver, whereas Adams, he's not only he's a little bit bigger in stature, he's more physical. I even though both players have great hands, I have a little bit more confidence in Davante Adams' abilities to not only stretch the field but also play. If you needed to have Davante Adams playing the slot, he could do that very well, and he can be just as physical. So I see as Adams being more of a complete receiver, where Diggs is more deep threat. So Davante for me.
All right, there you go. Hollywood Gaming chiming in from YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Anybody's watching from YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Get all the notifications when we are on. We usually do Wednesday nights, 8 to 10, and we'll have skits we throw out there here and there too as well. So, and coming in from Facebook here, I'm getting to it. Mike Tackett. All right, his questions for the Packers here. Will A-Rod click or clash with Matt LaFleur, which is basically what we brought up as well. Can the Packers have a consistent run game, which we also brought up? But we're on the same level. This is why Mike Tackett is one of our MVPs from last week's show and has been one in the past because he's right on point with us. We are on the right mind frame here. What Jimmy Graham does Green Bay get? Oh, yeah. What Jimmy Graham does he get? Yeah, I know. That's what we've all been asking, too.
Dude, let me tell you something about Jimmy Graham last season. When Jimmy Graham got signed to Green Bay, I was ecstatic. I'm like, bro, I'm going to take this guy in fantasy football. No one's going to see this coming. Jimmy Graham's going to have a huge year between him and Aaron Rodgers. They're going to have a great chemistry. He's going to just light it up like he did back in New Orleans. No, that didn't really happen. So I don't know what to expect with Jimmy Graham. I still think now with Mike McCarthy gone, because we saw, I don't know why, I don't know if he had a problem with McCarthy and McCarthy had a problem with Graham, or if they just had a bad relationship or something like that, but it seemed like Graham was left out of the game plan quite often. He still contributed some, but in the end, he just didn't get enough play enough play on the field. So this year, now you have a completely new offense, a new coach, and a coach, mind you, that used none other than Delaney Walker in Tennessee Titans heavily. So I expect, like I did last season, I'm saying it again, I expect Jimmy Graham to have a breakout year now that he has a new coach that loves to throw the ball to the tight end. So I think that Jimmy Graham is finally going to pay off some huge dividends for this team.
All right. DJ Horn for Hollywood Gaming. He subscribed, Joe.
Thank you, Hollywood.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Appreciate the
you
support.
joining in
Thank
with the show. We love the talk and the chatter and the comments.
Yeah, we just like to have a blast talking
football.
Absolutely,
it makes us smarter too as well. I love it. Love the conversations. All right, now also one of the questions here Mike Tackett has: can the O-line stay healthy? Same questions we had asked before we were doing the game plan for this.
I think that's the reason why TJ Lang decided to retire from Green Bay, because he was probably sick of getting beat up as well.
Yeah, who knows?
David Bakhtiari and Brian Bulaga, that to me is where the big question marks lie. These guys, they're a little bit older vets. They are, and also they're bookend tackles, which is it's a premier position now. Now you got to have two tackles, not just one. So if those two guys can stay healthy, I think that this offense and this offensive line will be just fine. But then again, you really can't predict injuries. So let's just cross our fingers for the Packer fans out there and hope that offensive line.
All right. He also asked, who picks up the production at linebacker?
Oh, yeah, the linebacker, yeah, because let me look at real quick right here, because I'll tell you right now, it's interesting because Blake Martinez, if you're a Packers fan, you know Blake Martinez. He's one of the best linebackers in the league. Doesn't get a lot of, spotlight, doesn't get a lot of showtime there. But you also look at who else they have on this team.
Kyler
Fackrell, who I also am very high on as well. I think he's going to be just fine there starting at that outside linebacker spot. The real interesting thing is the inside linebacker spot, Oren Burks. I think he's going to fit in very nicely, going to fit into this hole in that middle linebacking 3-4 defense. I think he's going to do very well. Third-round draft pick coming out of 2018 last year. So I think he's going to fill in right there. And then here's the other thing, too, is you got a couple of free agent moves that Green Bay has pulled off. I got you, Jimmy.
You got me. You got We're on the same
But Preston Smith coming from Washington, and also Zadarius Smith coming from the Baltimore Ravens. These two linebackers are absolute studs. They fit the 3-4 defensive scheme to a T. Not only can they rush the passer off the edge, but they also can play well in space in that zone coverage. I just think that they're still going to be deep at that linebacking position. This is a revitalized Green Bay defense. And they might have had a few struggles with Dom Capers when he was the D coordinator, and they had some injuries and all this other thing, but they've slowly but surely built a young stud of a defense on paper. I think that this team is going to take a huge step forward on defense, and watch out for this team to be none other than a top 10 defense this year.
That's right. We had them when we did our top 10 defenses. They were ranked on here fairly high. And Hollywood Gaming, I think we just answered his question here. Now, new coach for them. I see good things coming in this year if they can get their defense working. And we think they will, because also, along with Mike Tackett's question, DB progressions, they do grab, we talked about it earlier, Adrian Amos from Chicago. They've got Jair Alexander there too, and they drafted Darnell Savage, the first round stud, absolutely here. So this is exciting stuff for the Green Bay Packers. Can finally get maybe that championship defense back together that they were known for back in when they won the championship last time with Aaron Rodgers, trying to get back to the promised land, a new revitalized team. The main question is, that's why we always had with this new head coach that hasn't had the success that their quarterback has. You know what I mean? Aaron Rodgers has had more success than Matt LaFleur has as a head coach, because this is his first time go, and as offensive coordinator here for the Tennessee Titans, wasn't able to get, Mariota fixed in a sense, but also they were limited for weapons at times as well. So while he's given this bag of weapons, we only expect that he can excel here.
Yeah, and also don't forget about Kevin King and Josh Jackson at corner. Those are a couple other guys that are in this kind of rotation here. They got some nice pieces in there. They got some good depth, and man, I mean, I'm excited for the defense alone. I mean, the offense, it remains to be seen. It's a little bit unexpected to see what their offense is going to look like, but still positive all the way.
Yeah, Mike Tackett says, I think the Pack will go 9-7 and fight for final wild card spot. Potentially, yes. Maybe even better. We'll see. We'll see what this isn't going to be one of those great divisions.
Division too.
This is going to be. I love the divisions this year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tough battles within
a lot of parity.
Certain divisions. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be knockout, drag out. Where this is maybe the season where I think people will maybe start to argue the fact that the NFL wants to expand the playoffs. This season might start to turn those wheels a little bit, just because you're going to see so many great teams possibly looking on the outside, just because the depth that's in their division can't get in, and people want to see what they look like in the playoffs. So this could be it. I just
hope that. And here's the thing: it's a very delicate thing. What they're talking about is expanding the playoffs, because for the longest time, it's usually supposed to be the best of the best get in, but it isn't always the case in the current format. Sometimes we've seen the Tennessee Titans kind of back their way into the playoffs because they won the division, even though they didn't really have a winning record. So if somehow they were to alter it in a sense where you keep the same amount of teams in it, but the best or highest seeded teams get in, best record, you know what I mean? That to me, when they have tiebreakers. So just because you look like you're going to win the division at 9-7, if there's a team that's 11-5 or 11-5, I think they should get in. Same conference obviously, but I think they should get in, even though they were second place in their division.
Yeah, some divisions are harder than others. Hollywood Gaming joins in again. Also going into linebackers. What do you guys think of Vander Esch on the Cowboys? I think he's a killer, and it's only getting better. Also, sorry for the spelling of his name. That's
no
fine.
Problem. No
Leighton
problem.
Vander Esch. Again, this guy came on the scene, and his one question mark they had about him when they drafted him was Injuries. Is he going to get injured? You're not sure because they also have that same issue with Sean Lee. He is just injury prone. When he's on the field, he is a straight up baller, lights out. It decided games, whether they're going to win or lose. Again, he goes,
and also made their defense better when he was on the field.
Absolutely. So when he goes out, they plug in Leighton Vander Esch, and oh my God, he just lights the world on fire.
I'll tell you right now,
Great player.
Yeah,
And again,
really,
eventually they're going to break the bank for that guy.
that's what I mean. It just keeps going on and on and on. So here's the thing: is Leighton Vander Esch, he was heavily injured in college. There was a lot of injury concerns coming out, and I understand he did get banged up this year. He did miss like maybe a game, maybe 2 games, or maybe even just half a game. But for the majority of the season, he did stay healthy, and it is only his rookie year last year. So we don't have a lot to go on from. But what we've seen in 1 year in the NFL, what a player! A lot of people expected him to be a juggernaut of a linebacker, to be able to. He makes these devastating hits, supreme tackles. He's starting to really get used to. In 1 year, he looked almost like a veteran out there. Didn't look like he made too many mistakes to the naked eye. He was always in the right spot at the right time, along with another stellar linebacker like Jalen Smith. I'm sorry, like this Cowboys defense, they're another defense that we had in our top 10 projected defenses for 2019 season. We see them taking another step forward. They are a very dangerous defense and a young one as well. So Leighton Vander Esch, I think he's going to be a premier linebacker. Now, yes, it's going to be predicated on injuries. Can he sustain health in the NFL unlike he did in college? That's what we have to wait and see.
Absolutely. And it's funny is because when he came up and got picked, I think even some Cowboys fans were like, they were wanting wide receiver. Wanting wide receiver.
Yeah,
when
because when they
comes
picked,
out, they're kind of scratching their head.
Both of the top 2 receivers were there, and Riley Ridley and DJ Moore.
Calvin Ridley. Yes.
Calvin Ridley,
Yep.
yeah. So those 2 receivers were there when they were picking. So a lot of people all around the NFL world were saying, "Oh, this has got to be a wide receiver. That's what they need. That's one of their biggest weaknesses." They were like, "No, you know what? They were smart about it because they had Leighton Vander Esch pegged the whole time. They actually thought that he wasn't going to get to them. That's how excited Dallas was because they thought for sure he wouldn't even be there. They thought, okay, we'll take DJ Moore or Calvin Ridley if one of them fall to us because we really don't see Vander Esch getting to us." And sure enough, they were elated when Leighton was there right at their pick. They just sent the card in right away, and it surprised everybody.
Yeah, and I got to tell you one thing. With Jerry Jones, with his ups and downs that he has had lately, some of those guys, the depth that he's been able to get on the draft has been pretty stellar, especially on the defensive side.
I mean, they just have hit the picks when they've been given the opportunity. So, and it's not Jerry. I'm sorry to say, Jerry's not making these picks. It's his son really. His son is the GM. His son is relying a lot on these scouts that they have. They have some great scouts there in Dallas, so they're relying on their expertise, and it's paying off with huge dividends. They've managed to compile now like 3 very strong drafts.
There you go. So I got one more question here. I guess. Well, there you go. It was almost summed up. We'll say it real quick here with the defense now. Will they shine brighter than the offense now, depending on how this Matt LaFleur offense is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a shoo-in. I think as long as the players that are on this roster right here, as long as we always say it, stay healthy, stay healthy, stay healthy. But it is all predicated on health for the most part. But yeah, I think this defense is going to be stellar. I think they're going to take another big leap forward with this defense, which is going to help out Aaron Rodgers and company as they get more comfortable with the offense going forward. It's going to help to have that solid defense backing them.
All right, now finally moving on with the NFC North biggest questions, we got the Minnesota Vikings. And the one question I guess I had with the whole Vikings here, will the Vikings look to pursue their future face of the franchise after 2019? Because they invested heavily in Kirk Cousins. Which solely, if you looked at his numbers, he was one of the top-rated quarterbacks last year with QBR, accuracy, touchdowns, yardage. He was there sneaking in there. Yep. But was it enough to affect the whole team as a whole? It didn't happen so much. We also saw a lot of the other players make some serious mistakes. Even
or go down to injury. You know, they
yeah.
did lose Dalvin Cook, their starting running back, so that was kind of like a major blow for that offense. And they had to come away with a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball that started to kind of fall into place. So, you know, they had some quite a lot of bumps in the road. Even on offensive line, they had some dings.
And ultimately, though, this team right now is basically on this season, they're kind of like do it now or you're ready to, you know, clean up and hit the reset in a sense.
Yeah, I mean,
they got to do it now because, again, we're talking contracts,
right.
maybe have to get re-signed and things like that. Is it smart for them to try and look in the next upcoming draft for that replacement and look for somebody else to take over for Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I think you absolutely have to. You know, you have to do your due diligence now because the window, like we've been saying for the past couple of weeks, is closing on this team. You know, Kirk Cousins' contract is about to expire. What do you do then? Are you going to try to re-up this guy? And if you do, like Jim mentioned, he does have good stats, and he could make an argument, say, hey, you know, well, I think I deserve a little bit more than 30. You know what I mean? Even though I think that's crazy. You know, we both think that. But, you know, here's the thing. It's going to be a major decision maker for the Minnesota Vikings, and it's going to be a franchise, you know, crossroads. You know, so if this is going to be a big, impactful decision. Whether now you have to look for a new face, a franchise face, unless you plan on giving up another huge contract to this guy. I think it's going to kind of really, you know, like we mentioned, the Dallas Cowboys. You know, they're in financial purgatory. Minnesota Vikings could find themselves there if they decide to do another deal with Kirk Cousins. And on top of that, they also have a lot more needs to re-sign. You know, they did manage to pull off a couple of re-signings, like Xavier Rhodes got re-signed last year. Anthony Barr, this free agency, he got to test it a little bit. Almost went to New York Jets. He went as far as to say, yeah, I agree to that contract. And then within 24 hours, like, I like Minnesota. I like living there, so I'm going to stay back with Minnesota and do a deal there. They managed to keep him there. So, and it's just going to continue. There's going to be more guys that are looking for deals, much like the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep everybody. Again, there is a salary cap, so they're going to have to fight through that. But, yeah, the window is closing right now. And for those reasons alone, they have to re-sign a lot of talent. Kirk Cousins, you know, is going to close. They got to find that future quarterback now.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that this team kind of hinges on this year is Dalvin Cook. Is he going to stay healthy? Because we saw even in the first season that he was in there, was the numbers he was putting up was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Gets the injury, tails off, looking for a bounce back year, and he couldn't quite get it together
because he got hurt again.
So this year, he's working hard. We see him; he's putting out the videos where he's doing the dodging through the things in the beach and everything. So he's working hard. Right. They need to get that running game going here.
Yeah,
and that's the main questions here for the Minnesota Vikings, and that is our NFC North's biggest questions. That wraps up all the biggest questions we've done for the last month or so with every division. So next week we'll come back with a different type of segment for you guys.
Oh, that was quick, actually.
Yeah, we ran right through it. Yeah, just like that. You know, it's amazing how fast.
Hollywood's got something to say.
Hollywood's in there. Let's talk about the Vikings quick while we have it up here. I honestly think Kirk Cousins is overrated and is too emotional on and off the field.
I love it. I love the emotion.
Did he trademark something? Did he trademark something?
You like that?
Yeah, you
like that.
Yeah, you like.
That's what I'm talking about. I love that. I love the passion. I love the fire that he brings. You know, you look at Phillip Rivers. Now, you know, I'm a Raiders fan, and I hate the Chargers. Yeah. But Phillip Rivers, I like Phillip Rivers. He's a fiery dude. He's always like, you know, he has some interesting things to say. The guy never swears. But he'll call you like a ding dong or listen up, hot dog.
He's fired up. I like that. He's like that jerk that you kind of gotta like because he's such a jerk. You know
exactly.
Like, wow, dude,
he's just amazing. So yeah, I do like that. And, you know, that's what makes a lot of my quarterbacks my favorites. You know what I mean? I like the fire. I like the passion. I like the quarterbacks that gonna get in the offensive line's face and say, "Hey, you need to block better." Look at Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. He's pretty pretty ecstatic when
Let's go.
especially when
Let's go.
especially when his offensive line isn't blocking well. You see him freaking out, flipping out, throwing helmets and stuff, and trying to get on his offensive lineman to block better. So I like that feistiness. I like that fire. It brings passion to the game, and it just shows how much they care on the football field and on the sidelines.
Yeah, definitely. And he also brings up here, so he asked a question, so is Ty Montgomery on the Jets? If so, do you think they'll use him? He is on the Jets still, further down in the depth chart. But like you also brought up, that we almost forgot, was Elijah McGuire's there.
Yep.
We
did mention that.
Yeah, yes. Elijah McGuire's there too. So, there's a lot of depth there at running back. Le'Veon Bell, you would expect that he's going to be their main focal point here. Ty Montgomery, I don't know if he's going to see much of the field, especially with the things that he did in Green Bay, calling out Mike McCarthy, and when he was even out there, didn't even produce very well. So if you're gonna call out your coach for not using you or this and believe in you, you got to be able to show it on the field then at least, because you really weren't. So.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Ty Montgomery's whole career, though, he started as a wide receiver, and he was a pretty darn good wide receiver for Green Bay. They did convert him to running back because at the time they didn't have an Aaron Jones, they didn't have a Jamal Williams, so they were desperate. Yeah. So he ended up deciding, okay, I'll move to running back, no problem. He actually did a decent job. He did better than I thought he was going to do. A little bit more physical than I thought he was, and in the end, I thought that Green Bay would. After they did get an Aaron Jones, after they did get Jamal Williams, they would kind of move him back to that slot receiver spot, or even to help Devontae Adams. But it never happened. I was kind of confused about that. So then he moves on, goes to another team, and now he's just seen as a running back. And I'm like, wait, this guy can play receiver. So if anybody needs receiving help, why not change him back to what he used to be? So I just don't know. Ty Montgomery, I don't know if he's going to get playing time. To be honest with you, I think it's going to be an uphill battle for him to even make the roster. With the amount of depth that the Jets do have and stuff, I think it's going to be between Ty Montgomery and Bilal Powell. And if Bilal Powell really is truly fully cleared, which many of the reports out there say he is, I think it's going to be tough to beat him out. I think Ty Montgomery is going to be left out in the cold.
Absolutely. With being moved to Baltimore because he was a problem, didn't do anything in Baltimore, now trying to find something in the Jets. And I think they signed him before they even got Le'Veon Bell, I'm pretty sure. So, as some reassurance, and then they got Le'Veon, so he basically had to say it to himself, like, "Oh no, great, I'm done, dude."
That's it.
XFL, are you calling me? You know what I'm saying?
Wait, isn't there a league in Canada? I think I can go there too.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, what's Johnny Manziel doing? He says here, maybe convert to back to wide receiver. Yeah,
Boom, Hollywood. We are on the same wavelength, brother.
Maybe. You know what? I'm going to name it right now, Joe.
You're going to call it the MVP?
Yo, Hollywood Gaming.
He's on fire,
there you
bro.
Go. Dude, he is.
Look at him.
This show's MVP.
Bam, 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 bam.
That's it. So I'm going to post it for next week, too. He
like
has his name in the running to win our grand prize.
That's right.
At the end of the season after this coming 2020 Super Bowl. We're doing a giveaway. So every time you are a show MVP, you get your name in the hat or raffle, whatever we're going to do with it. And you are in the drawing, and we're going to do a big giveaway at the end of the season.
If you become MVP the most throughout the season,
yes,
you are going to get the grand prize, and we are not going to announce it until that day comes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the person with our picks is going to have to serve their punishment in the same day, so it's going to be quite a ride. It is going to be amazing. Last year's was a great time. Definitely.
It was.
It was. All right. See, that's what Johnny Manziel did. See, like you said, you went to. See, you got the same wavelength.
Here's the craziest thing, too, is just because Johnny Manziel's name kind of trickled in here to our conversation, it's interesting because I watched Manziel play in the AAFL.
Yeah.
And he actually did a decent job going in there. Yes, I know it's not the same talent nowhere near like NFL or even Canadian. I think Canadian level was a little higher. But I was impressed by Johnny Manziel with the way he kind of took over that offense. And when he was given the opportunity, he actually lit it on fire for them. So maybe Manziel still has a little bit of, little juice in his arm.
God rest his soul, Jared Lorenzen. He passes away at 38, right?
Terrible.
I want to bring this up, but the one thing, the comparison, and that I think is interesting, is Jared Lorenzen was doing well in the Canadian League and being able to be a starter, but Johnny Manziel couldn't even start. They ended up cutting him, and where he had to
Yeah,
move on to the XFL.
he was never given the
or to
opportunity.
the AAFL. So how
That
is
was the
that?
problem.
That's pretty an interesting.
Well, that's what it is. He
retrospect
wasn't
here.
given the opportunity like Lorenzen was given.
Yeah.
You know, Lorenzen, when he came in, like early on, he learned the
Out of
playbook
shape
and everything.
even, too.
And
You're like, wow,
he
you're
ended
like,
up
how's he a
winning.
quarterback?
Well, he beat out whoever was there. And to be quite honest, if you're a decent quarterback, you can beat out the talent. You can beat them out there. And Manziel, he came on late in the season, first of all, so he was going on to a team that was already established. And then he really never he got on the field a few times, but he never really was given the torch and said, here, take over the team. So I think that's really why he ended up being cut.
There you go. He says here he's a different player now. I'm not going to lie. He matured a lot. Yeah.
I think
that's what happens, too. Also, if he got married and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think that starts to get your...
He's a little bit more tame now. He's a little bit more understanding. He's definitely matured. And I wish him the best of luck. Maybe he gets another shot to be a backup. I don't think he'll ever be a starter somewhere, even if he makes it to the NFL. But it sucks for the football fan in me to see a guy who did end up changing his life around, or at least it seems like it. And I don't think he's going to get another opportunity in the NFL when he already had it.
Questions you have with all these other guys that wreck their opportunities, still get another chance, and guys like that who had done stuff off the field too, or even questionable stuff,
now
and never
changed.
sniffs it again.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. We'll see what happens there with Johnny. But that's our show for tonight. We went a bit over.
I like
but
it.
It doesn't matter because
It's okay.
we love that. We
love
love the
it.
interaction with everybody. We met a new friend here in Hollywood Gaming on YouTube. Jack Connor joined us tonight. Mike Tackett was with us tonight.
As always.
All the MVPs, all of our great know-it-alls that we
it.
call them. That's what we call the people that watch us and listen to us and follow us.
If you're checking into the show real quick, I just want to mention,
ahead, hit us
last second you're checking into the show, make sure to follow us. Show us some support. Show us some love. We love all the know-it-alls out there. That's what we call our fans, know-it-alls. And be in the know with Jim and Joe every week, Wednesday, 8 to 10. Sometimes we go over a little bit, but it's all good. We love sitting here talking football, bouncing back ideas, opinions. That's what the show's all about, being interactive, being in the know. Hit us up on YouTube. Smash that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell whenever we go live. And you can also follow us for all the latest and greatest updated content and news around the NFL. That's right. We are on Twitter as well, at FB_know. And we're also on social media outlets like Snapchat and Instagram. Hit us up there. Do whatever you got to do. We're in the know, bro. Let's go.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us, like we said, and we will see you guys next week.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.